Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. Welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. It's coming up 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. I don't say welcome back. Welcome back to the station. I've just started my show with you all the way until 1, whether you're listening on DAB Plus Radio or your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device. I really appreciate you joining me. I'm sorry, I'm still in a bit of a shock of that idea of JK being Prime Minister of this country. Seriously, scared. Genuinely scared. Just if you're listening, scared. Anyway, lots coming up today. If you do miss anything on the show, do go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe and you never have to miss a thing. Coming up, we're going to discuss the 13th U-turn, second just this year from Labour since they've come to power, banning their plans for mandatory digital IDs for workers. Only the mandatory bit, guys, only the compulsory bit, not the digital IDs. So we're going to talk about why. Don't rest on your laurels on that one. Love to know what the next U-turn is going to be, because there is going to be another one in the next few weeks, I'm absolutely sure. Donald Trump telling those Iranian protesters that help is on its way as he considers strikes against the regime. We've got the first execution set for today from one of the protesters, a 26-year-old shopkeeper. Is help going to come soon enough is the question. There are some claims now that up to 20,000 protesters have been killed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So we really need to know if this, Donald Trump, if you say you're going to help people, you need to get that help there fast. Plus, Keir Starmer is set to join Donald Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza this after apparently, turns out Tony Blair, a little bit too controversial. I know, I'm as surprised as you are. Plus, pub goers are to be hit with pricier pints of Guinness. Alcoholic drinks that are diluted as of next month as Rachel Reeves' rise in alcohol duty takes effect. This comes on top, of course, the business rates, all the ending of all the help for hospitality that started during lockdown after they basically killed off pubs. And the news that, what a surprise, Rachel Reeves absolutely did know that her budget was going to raise business rates for huge numbers of pubs. She knew it put 5,000 pubs in peril, but she went ahead with it anyway. Labour's war on pub continue. We'll talk to the man who started the campaign to ban Labour MPs from pubs until this policy is all changed. Can't wait to talk to him. So much coming up, so many top guests. Joining me for all the chat, my other top guest, of course, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor, always joins us on a Wednesday morning.
Morning. How you
Lovely
doing?
to see you. Beautiful. Beautiful Wednesday.
Yes.
I don't know about you. I feel completely different when I wake up, and I don't know what the weather is like where you are, but where we are, suddenly we've got lovely, lovely blue, sunny skies, lovely frosty morning. Feels completely different from the sort of miserable grey rain of the last few days.
Oh, this morning I had to scrape the ice off the car. Living in the countryside is an absolute joy. But then the sun started to come up and it was just beautiful. It was.
Makes you feel really happy about how well this country is doing, how the country's going, how great this year is going to be. And then it stops because then you see the news. Now, last night I was delighted. I saw this news about this U-turn on compulsory digital ID announced by Keir Starmer. And we should have a little listen, actually, to what he did say back on 26th of September, only last year.
This government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
He spelt that out, and it's as simple as that. Well, it's as simple as that that is now no longer a requirement. Now, the weird thing is this was not in their manifesto.
Yeah.
It's something Tony Blair has been pushing for years. He's brought a load of Tony Blairs. It's basically, putting the band back together back in Downing Street because all the young people are so incompetent. Hi, if you're watching, but you are. The proof is in the pudding. And they've got all the old people back in town, and they, of course, will go, oh, Tony Blair, he likes digital ID, which he thinks is the answer to everything. You stub your toe, he thinks digital ID would have prevented it. And this was you. The argument about it was that we're going to stop people wanting to come here on the boats because they can work here illegally so much more easily than they can in the rest of Europe because we don't have ID cards. We're going to have digital ID cards. That will stop it. Everyone will have to have one. If you want to get a job, you're going to have this mandatory digital ID. And now he says we're not going to have it. We haven't been told exactly why they're dropping it. I think probably because we've got local elections coming up in a few months' time. Things are looking very dodgy, and this is just another one of those policies that people go, I don't trust the government on. But how are we going to stop the boats if we don't have the mandatory digital ID, Claire?
Well, I think that Keir Starmer, if you're listening, needs to come on your show and explain that.
Come on, Keir, love.
It would be good, wouldn't it? I mean, it was never going to
I'll have Danishes, I'll have pastries. He looks like a man who eats a lot of pastries.
Well, I think he's partial to an almond croissant.
Is he?
Yes, apparently so.
There you are then. Oh, you see, I like him for that. I love an almond croissant.
So do I. Actually, it's a very tasty snack.
But then, let's do the whole show on that. No. What snack should politicians eat? No, OK, go on. Sorry.
Well, I think that would not be U-turned on. I think once you've decided that. But I think
an almond croissant?
Yeah, absolutely. He can't U-turn on that one. But I think this policy was hysterical that it started out and people went, yeah, I can understand if you want to stop illegal people getting jobs, then digital ID, this will help. And then they worked out that it would be mandatory, everybody would have to carry one, other things would be added onto it. So it became incredibly unpopular. The government doesn't like it when things become unpopular. And we've seen that.
They don't like themselves.
No, they don't. And every single time enough pressure is exerted, they U-turn.
There's a big petition. They've got the man doesn't believe in anything. He had no public mandate for this. A lot of Labour MPs very unhappy about it. People rebelling on that. It was interesting actually how much the left and the right did actually unite against this. I think a lot of people, everyone knows it wasn't going to stop illegal workers because if you've got an employer going, I'm quite happy to have Mr. from Afghanistan, Syria, or wherever he is. I know he's not allowed to work unless I've said, can I see your passport? Can I see your visa and your permission to work from the Home Office? Well, unless you've asked for that, you know perfectly well that person's not able to work in the country, barely speak English, for goodness sake. And so those employers are not going to go, oh, well, I have to ask for mandatory digital ID. If you start prosecuting employers and by the way, imprisoning employers who employ people illegally, make it painful for them, not just like a slap on the wrist and a small fine. I think you'll find you can deal with that pretty much overnight if you want to. But everyone knew, it wasn't going to do the job he said it was going to do. And no one trusts this government, or indeed any government, after what happened during lockdown and after what happened with mandatory vaccine passports and the like. They were trying to push that. And then this is the thing. And again, the backlash to that wasn't just a few cranks and people like me. Maybe I'm kind of counted among the cranks, I don't know. It was actually an awful lot of people going, that's not what we're like. We are not a papers, please society. And people talk about, it's completely normal everywhere else. Digital ID is different from an ID card. I've got ID card. I've got my press ID. I've got my driving license. I've got my passport. I've got bank cards. I've got numerous other bits of ID. I'm pretty sure if I'm able to identify myself. Most people do. You can get free ID if you're getting benefits. There's no excuse for people not to have ID. If you're getting your pension, you've got ID. I'm sorry, people have ID. But there's a difference between that and digital ID, which can be updated and can be used at any time and can be used against you. So, I'm afraid we've decided that you've done something wrong and you're no longer able to, for instance, buy a plane ticket, or you're no longer able to buy this or that in the shops. And that is how it's used in China. Right now, that is where this is being tested, and they use it to control people. Oh, you've criticised the government a bit too much. I'm afraid you're no longer allowed to buy plane or train tickets or to go to university. They literally use it like that. It is incredibly sinister, and in no way will it do anything to make us safer or cut crime or improve our lives. It's a load of abject nonsense. It's not the same as, for instance, having your NHS app on your phone and being able to check whether your prescription's been approved or not without calling the doctor. That's sufficient. I'm quite happy with that. This is very different.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, everybody has more than enough pieces of identification to be able to produce, should they need to.
And if people don't have it, that's up to them.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are many ways that you can get ID. It doesn't have to be having a passport. You can use your bus pass. There are ID schemes.
You need
for
ID to get
people.
That.
Yeah, you do. I mean, but that's a letter from the DWP and all sorts of things. There are ways of doing it. But also for employers, there was the checking service anyway. That's always been in existence. To check if somebody has the right to work.
It's always been a load of nonsense. It's the 13th U-turn. Second just this year. I'm expecting more to come. But here's the basic problem, is Keir Starmer announces policies, his ministers announce policies out of the blue. They've clearly not thought them through.
Yeah.
And then they get a load of pushback, and then they U-turn on them. Whether it's, I mean, let me just go through the list. I mean, this is extraordinary. The grooming gangs inquiry. You know, 1 minute you're far right on the bandwagon if you wanted a grooming gangs inquiry, and then there is one. Well, it hasn't actually happened yet, has it? I mean, you know, but I was happy with that U-turn. How the government measures debt. I mean, don't really care about that. Trans rights. Well, they kind of U-turned, and then you kind of U-turned back again, didn't they? On that, in terms of 1 minute men were women, and the next minute they weren't. But you know, two-child benefit cap. They're in favour of cutting child poverty. Not in favour of telling parents who've got a load of kids to go out and get a job. I mean, that's how you cut child poverty, guys. But they actually, you know, but they actually punished MPs, withdrew the whip, who voted to end the two-child benefit cap, and then they put it in. Now, again, I disapprove of their U-turn on that. They were right the first time. State pension age, that WASPy women conversation, again, they were very supportive of WASPy. I think they were wrong on that. Again, I don't think the government can't afford it. Ladies, you need to keep on top of when your retirement age is. I'm sorry. Winter fuel payment cuts, the winter fuel payment out of the blue, brought it in, July, August in 2024, and then they had to backtrack on that. That's been the single most damaging policy they've announced. The benefit cuts, well, they were the wrong benefit cuts, but they couldn't get those through, so they had to U-turn on that. The national insurance, they weren't going to raise national insurance. They raised national insurance for employers. The income tax thresholds, they said that was wrong to freeze them. Then they froze them. Workers' rights bill, again, they backtrack on some of that. That's not a bad thing. Inheritance tax on farmers, the business rates for pubs, and now digital ID cards. What do you think is going to be next?
It's going to be more Treasury-based things. I think they've had such pushback from pubs and restaurants that I can see that there's going to be a U-turn on that imminently.
Why don't they just not make any policy and then they won't have to U-turn?
Do you know what?
That'd be easier.
In one of their meetings only last week, one of the lines that came out of it was that they should get everything right the first time. And you think, well, yes, that's really basic, and you haven't managed to do that in the coming up to 2 years.
But we're looking at the most basic again. Well, also you had 14 years. I mean, he had 4 years, for goodness' sake, as opposition leader. It's quite astonishing. And also, by the way, another PR fail yet again. It's not even that they're good at PR. There's an announcement at the North of England Rail. Between Liverpool and Manchester, that's been completely, kiboshed by that. I disagree with. I mean, a lot of the commentary today, and including, JK this morning. Look, of course, it's not going to be built before 2030. Yeah, seriously. I mean, have you ever applied for planning permission to have the most basic renovations done in your house? Have you ever had a kitchen put in? Yeah, do you remember, when you have a kitchen put in, and we've been flooded a few times. We've had a number of them. Thank you to insurance companies. But the builders will say, that'll be 6 weeks or whatever. Lay the floor. Or whatever, 6 months later you're still going. When's the oven happening? I'm sorry. I mean, this is not an industrial kitchen. This is a normal kitchen. This is how building work takes a long time. There's no point saying it's going to be up and running in 2030. But by the way, they say they're going to cap the spending at 45 billion. Oh, bless you and good luck with that.
I like that. I like their ambition with that. That's never going to happen. They're going to come across some bats or some newts or some very angry people who don't want it going anywhere near their property. And that's always the problem. Anything to do with planning is an absolute nightmare. I've sat on a planning committee. It was one of the most painful things I think I've done, listening to people not like the windows of the house going in behind them.
There is that.
I mean, it is just absolutely painful. But if you were looking at the number 10 grid and you would see all of the fallout from last night, you would move things around and you wouldn't have that announcement coming today.
But that's how incompetent they are. I'd love to hear your reaction, actually, to this U-turn. First of all, are you pleased about the U-turn? Are you sort of cheering away, yes, this is a victory for common sense because we're not going to have compulsory digital ID for workers? Or are you wary that, it's not going to be compulsory, but eventually it'll be one of those things where, well, you don't have to have it. Your life's just going to be very difficult if you don't have it. We're going to make life very hard for those people because that's kind of what they were doing, wasn't it, with the vaccines as well during COVID. And the fact that it's the 13th Labour U-turn, do you think there'll be more? I mean, we all know the answer to that. What should the next U-turns be? And how can they avoid U-turns? And what do you put it down to? Is it because they're listening? This is a listening government. They've heard people criticise and they want to listen, or are they just abjectly, utterly incompetent and don't do their research in the first place? Get it right the first time. Mad idea. Give us a call. Love to hear your thoughts. 03444 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate and text costs one standard network rate message. Let's talk about foreign affairs. Donald Trump yesterday very clearly said about, look, these deaths in Iran, the protesters who are being shot dead on the street. Video is coming out. I mean, it slowly drips and drabs with that 6-day now internet blackout and indeed being able to cut the Elon Musk Starlink links as well for people. But they managed to get some videos out. People being just shot indiscriminately by numerous IRGC officers on the streets in many different cities across Iran. Donald Trump yesterday said, carry on going out onto the streets, help is on the way. By all accounts, people are not carrying on going out to the streets. We've seen pictures of the body bags in the morgues. Different reports vary from a couple of thousand to possibly up to 20,000 people having been shot dead. Today is the day when we are looking at the first executions of people who've been arrested after summary arrest and trial. Trial, but not in no way what we would call a trial. But a 26-year-old shopkeeper called Irfan Sultani is due to be hanged today, the first protester to be executed. I mean, Donald Trump says he promises help. He said he would help. He said to people he would be there if they were attacked. They're being attacked en masse. What is stopping the US helping, and what should they do, if anything?
Well, I mean, this is the really difficult question because nobody wants bombs going off. Nobody wants...
You say nobody. I'm quite happy for the mullahs to be bombed.
Again, yes, but I just worry about the rest of the country. I worry about the rest of the civilians there who are going to get caught up in it. So is it always the best way? We, the UK, should not. We don't have a great history when it comes to helping America in these countries. It never goes well. Look at Iraq and places like that. However, if the president has promised to help, he absolutely should. The people that are sending out those videos are so incredibly brave. They're doing it at great risk to their own personal safety to get videos out so the rest of the world can see what's going on, because we can't. There is a massive blackout.
But there's no point us seeing what's going on if people aren't going to do anything about it.
Absolutely, and we should be helping them. I don't know what that looks like. I have a suspicion that it is going to require some heavy-duty firepower.
I have a feeling there's stuff going on the ground, and people say all these. I mean, some of the lunatics on the social media. It's all down to it's not real revolution. It's the Israelis. No, Mossad are definitely in Israel, in Iran. We know that from the information they had for those attacks they made on the mullahs. But whatever they can do to try and help. I mean, I'm sorry. I have no issue with Donald Trump sending in missiles and taking out a leader. And I'm sorry, these are not legitimate regimes. I do not accept this idea that it was a sovereign nation state. It's not a legitimate regime.
No, it isn't. And they are a brutal regime who care only for themselves and to... look at it in their own way. Well, indeed. But they are very, very radicalised in that respect.
Talking of radicalisation, let's talk about our police who are utterly captured. Certainly West Midlands Police. Chief Constable Craig Guildford may probably be getting... someone sent a cardboard box to his office, because I'm not sure he lasts the day or certainly the week in his job as Chief Constable, and good riddance to him if he does go. Today we know the Home Secretary is going to make a statement about the Incham Inspector and Constabulary's report into the police handling of that Maccabi Tel Aviv fan ban and all the fallout since, and the blatant and open lies. The apology to the latest genuinely gets worse every day. The latest is an apology by West Midlands Police to the Select Committee in the House of Commons for the fact that they used AI to look at research whether there had been any problems with Maccabi Tel Aviv fans before. And AI, because this is the thing, I use AI now, so I check, I'm going to get a quick answer to things, but usually it's something that I already know about, and I then double check it because it's not reliable. It's just not reliable on these things. It really isn't. And basically, it said it just made up a match that Maccabi had never actually played. Made up a match. That is how bad this stuff is. It probably saw some dodgy tweet from somebody who was completely anti-Semitic, who made something up, and it just believes it's true because it thinks everything has equal value that it reads, which is the problem with AI. But this is how rubbish they are. Genuinely, I want every single senior officer in the West Midlands Police investigated. I think, and I've said this before, I think that everybody who's been convicted of a crime that's involved evidence from West Midlands Police has a clear case for an appeal right now, because you've got a culture from the very top where lying is clearly and cover-ups is the norm. How can we trust any conviction based on police evidence from that entire region now? I'm absolutely serious.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. What this Chief Constable has done is the equivalent of going into the pub and speaking to the pub bore at the bar, and whatever information they spout, you take as the gospel truth. Yep. He has taken... To
take away civil liberties from people going about their daily business.
Absolutely, based on absolutely nothing that is true. And it's not very difficult to look up, through legitimate terms, whether a match took place or not.
I mean,
these are quite big clubs, West Ham
Yeah.
and Maccabi Tel Aviv. They are there to be looked
Had that
at.
match happened,
Do you
it
know
did
what?
not happen.
Pick up the phone to a press office and
Yeah.
say, did you play on this day? It's
this
really quite
is the thing.
simple.
Well, you know, police resources are stretched. Well, yeah, you're all sitting there on AI. I mean, you
they're
may as well,
sitting there on Google,
may as well
aren't
be
they?
sitting on TikTok getting your research, for goodness
probably
sake.
were.
It's genuinely terrifying. But we're going to get the statement from the police. They're going to release that report. I just don't believe that he can stay in his job at all. At this point, Shabana Mahmood, she's a wily politician, the Home
Yes,
Secretary. Now,
yeah.
there's also some question marks about her. She knew apparently 8 days before she actually claims to have known that the fans were going to be banned. And again, this isn't it's not even about the football club. I don't care whether a football match takes place or I'm sorry, I don't, unless it's an England game in the World Cup, then I absolutely do. But you know that it's not about that. It's about the police being under the thumb of local Islamist extremist anti-Semites and doing their bidding and then lying the hell about it. This is an outrage. This is literally the end of policing, you know, fairly in this country. And this is such a serious question. And if the Home Secretary doesn't insist, I don't think she's got the power personally to sack him.
No, she
But
doesn't.
there's a process she can go through.
Yes, it's the Police and Crime Commissioner for the area.
But
has
he's the guy who
absolute power.
appointed this guy, along with approval of a local mosque
he's
leader.
been incredibly quiet on this. So I'd be, if
Well, he
I
needs
was
to
the
go
Home
as well.
Secretary, I'd be picking up the phone to him saying, what are you doing? I want a decision by the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think she's been too quiet on this topic as
Yeah.
well. I mean, again, she knows if she doesn't sack this guy, her head's on the block. There's no
Yes,
question
yeah.
at all. And she's an ambitious and bright woman, so I doubt that. But again, that shouldn't be the reason why this guy goes. He should have fallen on his sword long ago. I don't think, frankly, he should have been in the job, but there we are. Let's also talk about this latest on the Chinese mega embassy, the one we would be able to see from across the road if it was actually built. Prince Sam has been branded Peking's poodle over a basically likely agreement. We think it could be as early as this week for them to actually approve this. We've got the White House raising more and more concerns, although they were told last year they were fine with it. Labour MPs revolting against this. I mean, we had plans in the Telegraph yesterday. They actually have been published in the Mail earlier last year.
Yeah, but they weren't picked up.
Basically placing those plans next to where the cables are. They're a metre away. They've got a secret room, redacted information, the planning. And we don't know what that room's going to be for. Yeah, we do. You know, spying and God knows what. And it's 1 metre, the wall is 1 metre away from these vital communication cables. This is insane. If Keir Starmer agrees to this, I mean, he'll end up U-turning on this. He'll agree to it and then end up U-turning on it. But this is a national security issue at this point.
And there were angry MPs in the Commons yesterday because the urgent question went through, and it was actually a statement given by the planning department for the government.
Sake, yeah.
They're treating it as a planning issue.
They've overruled Tower Hamlets, haven't they?
They
The local
have,
council.
indeed. So all of the MPs raising legitimate security concerns were being brushed off by somebody who is essentially a planning minister.
Yeah.
And doesn't know anything about national security. And so there was a lot of real discomfort in the Commons, and I think that the security minister will end up being dragged into the Commons and questioned, and rightly so. 208 rooms underneath the embassy that they just said, oh yes, we need them. 208 rooms.
208 cells?
Wow.
No, I'm serious.
Makes
I mean,
you
I'm
wonder,
absolutely
doesn't
serious. Again, it shouldn't go ahead. It's absolutely outrageous. There's also one of the issues because people have a right to protest out, you know, inside an embassy of a body like that and of a country like that. But there isn't room for people to protest there without cutting off major arterial routes. So again, another reason why it shouldn't be there. But they're not big on protests anyway, are they? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of those big stories. Coming up, we're also going to be talking about pubs and basically the government's war on pubs. I think, again, that's going to be another one of the U-turns. But the price Rachel Reeves knew absolutely. She was saying she was giving help to pubs in the budget. They briefed it beforehand. And then they didn't give any help. They did the opposite. They actually, I mean, some people have seen their business rates go up by multiple factors. It's extraordinary what they're doing. We're going to be talking about that with the man who actually organised the campaign to ban Labour MPs who supported this policy from their own local pubs. I love this campaign. This is actually how you get change. You ban MPs from pubs, you are seriously going to get what you want in the end. But first up, we are going to take your calls. Lots of calls coming in already on digital ID. Are you welcoming that U-turn, or are you a bit wary that, the compulsory bit is gone for now, but the digital IDs are still on, quite literally, the cards? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is...
Morning, welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the home of common sense. Coming up very soon, we're going to be talking to Brendan O'Neill about digital ID cards. You want to get your tuppence worth in. Lots of you messaging, a lot of you calling in. 03444991000 is the number to call. David is in Bedworth. David, do you welcome this U-turn on compulsory digital ID cards?
Welcome it, but it's not a U-turn. It's just spinning the words.
Ah. What do you mean by that?
They'll soon decide, you need a digital ID to do this, that and the other. You can't get any benefits. You can't.
Yeah. So you're not required by law to have it. You just can't do anything without it.
Exactly. And it's the slippery slope. All he's done is spinning the words. It's the same as the farmers. Oh, we'll be doing the U-turn. Oh, no, but you still need a few more million. Don't believe a word of it. They're just... I think Alistair Campbell's training them in how to train the narrative. How
to lie. Let's call it what it is. I mean, I certainly, when I saw it, I thought, they're dropping the whole thing. Oh, no, the compulsory bit. What is interesting is how many people they talk about, I've seen on the media a lot this morning, talk about ID cards. It's not an ID card. We've got ID cards. Most people have got ID. It's the digital bit. It's the real life. It can be adjusted and it can be it can be turned off in real time by the government. That's the bit that's sinister.
Exactly. Just ask the 88 million people in Vietnam that had their bank accounts wiped because they didn't have a digital ID, or the people in India whose digital IDs were stolen and couldn't get any food. Yeah,
someone actually died. Someone actually died. You're quite right. And the people who can't have no freedoms at all in China because there's people think when I talk to people about what's going on in China, the digital ID thing, that people think I'm insane. People literally go, it's all made up. Right? It's really well documented. It's happening. People just think this is like some weird Hollywood invention. It's happening right now.
Yeah. And it's required to get the central bank digital currency. Once they've got digital currency, it's a case of, you're an alcoholic. Oh no, you're not allowed to buy any alcohol, or your BMI is a bit too large. You can't have that.
And we'll freeze your account if you've done something. And again, people will say that won't happen. Literally, has happened in other countries. I mean, when you look at what happened from Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, with the truckers who were campaigning perfectly peacefully against having having vaccine passports required of them to go to work, and that's what they did to the people who supported them.
Yeah, people need to wake up and smell the coffee, open their eyes. This is probably the worst attack on civil liberties in the world, and it's happening all over the world, and it's strange that it's happening in lots of countries all at the same time.
I don't think it's a global conspiracy. I think it's just that every single government thinks that they know better than their people. That's the basic problem. The political classes think they know better than us because they think we're all troglodytes, basically. That's what they think. David, thank you for your call. Appreciate that. By the way, David knows a heck of a lot more about digital ID than I think the Prime Minister and his aides do. Small point worth making. Michael is in Birmingham and wants to have his say as well. Morning to you, Michael.
Morning. Yeah, very unsafe, Michael. I've got absolutely no confidence in the West Midlands Police whatsoever. And my prediction for 2026 is I'll be attacked and nothing will be done about it. And just,
well, depends who attacks you, love. It depends who attacks you.
Well, precisely. You know exactly what I'm getting at.
I do.
In fact, it'd probably be turned on me. But either way, I wanted to talk about the U-turns and the high-speed rail thing that they're talking about in the north. These things, they're just tinkering around the edges. It's like, somebody saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to wash the dishes, but before that, I'm going to refurbish the coffee table and all of that. And the dishes are still not done at the end of the day. That rail link will never happen. Half of us will be dead by the time it does. I'm all about investing in the future.
We should be doing it
immediately. But the digital ID, right, this is just part of them making migration easier. If they did a root cause analysis, which I'm sure their little children have studied that in their HNC management, they did a fishbone root cause analysis, they would realise that to become an illegal worker, you have to be in the country illegally anyway, and the root cause is illegal. But they open routes. The care worker thing has been completely exposed. I exposed that myself years ago. I've dated many care workers. I haven't got a thing about care workers. But I've dated many care workers, and they're here for a few hours a week, and their main motivation has always been to get themselves and their families over here, not to be a care worker.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, so I'm not digging out.
Yeah, if the government wants to deal with the illegal workers, there are better ways of doing it. Digital ID cards wouldn't do a single thing about it. Michael, thank you very much indeed. Anyway, also some of you are going to deal with it in 2030 is a bit too late. Thank you so much indeed for that. It's coming up to 10:34. Take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking to Brendan O'Neill about digital ID cards and plenty more besides. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning. Welcome back to the show. 10:35 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. This is Talk. Let's speak right now to my next guest, Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Hi, Julia.
Hello.
How you doing?
Very well indeed. Well, we're all happy today because we've got yet another U-turn by the government. As a general rule, when the government U-turns, because their policies are so badly thought out and useless and terrible anyway, the U-turns, not always, but are largely a good thing. So we've got this announcement yesterday that the Prime Minister is abandoning his plans for a compulsory digital ID for workers, which was planned for about 2030. It's no longer going to be compulsory, although they're going ahead with the digital ID bit anyway. Do you welcome this move, and do you feel like, OK, it's all fine now, or are you still having concerns?
Yeah, I don't think it's fine now. I don't think it will be fine until this rubbish government gets out of power. But as you say, it's a welcome U-turn. I mean, it's indicative of the uselessness of this government that they can't stick to anything, which makes me bristle at them even when they U-turn on things that I disagree with.
Yes.
God, you're so useless at everything you do. You can't stick to anything because they're constantly U-turning. It's like the opposite of Thatcher. You know, U-turn if you want to, but I won't. They're the precise opposite of that. But it is welcome because compulsory digital ID cards were a tyrannical suggestion. It was so indicative of the inability of this government and the entire political class, in fact, to get control of our borders. And because they can't control the borders, they want to control us instead. Because they can't police the territory of the kingdom, they want to police the people who live in it. It was such an insight into how the political class operates. They can't run the country, so they try to myopically run our lives. So I'm glad it's been put on the back burner.
Well, quite apart from the fact that the main claim that was first given, although they then trotted out a whole load of other things about how it would make our lives so much easier in terms of our interactions with public services and education and every government, everything else, was that this was going to make it harder for employers, illegal workers to get employment. And everyone, I mean, literally everyone turned a man and woman went, you seriously think there are employers who are currently right now employing illegal workers without having a visa for them to work, clearly unable to speak English and no British passport? You think they're going to go, oh, but now I'm going to check digital ID. I mean, it was laughable from day one and it was never going to solve the actual problem. But here's the thing. Why do you think they keep having to U-turn so often? When you think, I mean, some of them, I say, very welcome U-turns, like on a, winter fuel. I'm really glad and the grooming gang, we're not going to have an inquiry, but we will. I mean, I haven't actually seen it yet. The national insurance, so that was an unwelcome one. Inheritance tax on farmers, business rates for pubs. I mean, there's an awful lot of things. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But the main thing is they don't seem, as you say, to have any sort of plan for policy. I mean, lots of this stuff wasn't in the manifesto, not thought out, never tested. And it seems like they're always completely shocked by the public reaction, as if they've not actually thought it through.
That's exactly what it is. The question of why they constantly U-turn is because they are so fantastically out of touch with British people. Yeah. They don't understand what we're thinking. They don't understand our concerns. They don't understand the things we would support, the things we would oppose. So they just come up with these policies with no sense of what people might want and try to impose them on us and then realize actually they're very, very unpopular. They don't understand how farmers feel. They don't understand how the people who make our food feel about what the government is doing. They don't understand how workers feel and the idea that we should all have to show a compulsory ID in order to get a job. They don't understand why it would be unpopular to take away heating benefits from older people. And, they just don't get...
But is it about how people feel? Is it literally being totally out of touch with how people live? So not understanding that if you put up the cost of employing somebody, that would mean that employers can't afford to employ somebody. That if you put up business rates on hospitality that's been struggling since 2020, well, they were struggling before 2020 in lockdown, for goodness sake, that they're going to close down and we're going to lose those. And how farmers, how they hand on their farms and how that economically works. It's the most basic level of not understanding. It's like there's a whole little group of them. They've all got their pelotons. They all live in North London and they all go to the same dinner parties and they all have a little chat together on the Saturday night and think, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, we should do that. We should do that. And it's like they're completely and utterly living in this ivory tower, out of touch with everyone else.
They have no idea how the country works. That's so true. And, it's hard for people to imagine now, but we used to have a political class who, before they went into politics, they would work in manufacturing, or they would work as nurses, or they would be teachers, or they would be community workers, whatever else it might be. We used to have a political class that had normal jobs for a period of time before going into politics. Yeah. Now they all go into politics through these think tanks and through journalism and through these very ivory tower professions. Yeah. Where they never have to rub shoulders with a farmer or someone who works on a building site or ordinary people who actually know how society works.
But you think that I've had MPs say to me repeatedly that they, that they're more in touch than most, say, Westminster bubble journalists with awful phrase, ordinary people who because they have people coming into their constituency offices but I'm thinking, I've never got into a constituency office. Most people don't do that unless they've got a crisis. And actually, I just think that they genuinely just don't actually listen to what people living their normal daily lives, running a small business, trying to make ends meet, are actually doing. And again, they only seem to see people, someone's on benefits, they're a crisis, we need to help them. And then everyone else is someone we need to tax. It's almost like there's nothing in between, which is very bizarre. They also massively, let's be honest, are massively out of touch, I think, with the public when it comes to international affairs as well. Now, I know that most people don't want us to get involved with wars abroad and the like, but in terms of especially Labour MPs and their support for the Palestinian cause over and above, Israel, massively out of touch. But I'm intrigued to know what you think of where we are in terms of how the pro-Palestinian cause, the Islamist extremist cause, very closely linked, and the woke cause, have all three kind of got together in terms of our public services, because we saw this with the the Labour MP, the Jewish MP, who was banned from attending a school in his own constituency in Bristol by activist teachers. We've got this also with this police chief, the West Midlands, Craig Guilford, who I don't know how got his job and stayed in his job and is still in his job right now, but I doubt he will be by the end of the week, who was the man who agreed to this ban on the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in November last year for that match against Aston Villa, basically at the behest of the local Islamist extremists basically saying, we're going to cause violence if you don't ban the Jews from Birmingham. So they went ahead and did it, and then lied about it, and then lied about their lies, and then covered up the lies about their lies. What do you make of that story and the likelihood that when the Home Secretary, as she will, makes a statement later today about that, having seen the HMI Inspector of Constabulary's report into that whole fiasco, what do you think she's going to say? And do you think Craig Guildford is going to keep his job or not?
I can't believe he still has his job. I mean, I understand why. It's because the so-called progressive classes aren't saying anything about this, so they're not pushing him out as they would if he had done this in relation to any other ethnic minority. But because this concerns Jews, they're sat on their hands and they're saying nothing. And in fact, they're making excuses for what the West Midlands police did. That's the truth of it. You know, the more I think about it, Julia, the more scared I get, actually, because it seems to me that Islamists, radical Islamists, and I don't mean ordinary Muslims, the vast majority of whom just want to crack on with their lives like the rest of us.
Exactly.
But there are radical Islamists in this country who have a whip hand over certain communities. The government is continually capitulating to them. The police are capitulating to them, giving them what they want. And what essentially happened up in Villa Park last November is that the police did the bidding of these anti-Semites, let's be honest about what these Islamists represent, and made that a Jew-free zone on their behalf. And then if you look at the Labour MP who was prevented from speaking at that school, that, in my view, was also anti-Semitic. People are saying he was only banned from speaking because he's pro-Israel. Well, I'm sorry, 80% of Jews in this country feel a strong attachment to Israel and consider it their ancestral homeland. So are we going to stop all those Jews, the vast majority of British Jews, from going to schools, from going to football matches? We have a...
I think that is what those people would like to do, yes.
It is. It really is. And what the government should be saying is absolutely no way. And any school that prevents a Jewish MP from speaking should be investigated immediately.
Oh, 100%. I've said, you know, get your kids the hell out of there. Apparently a lot of the parents were very supportive of it, which tells you quite a lot about that area. But again, this all goes back to those pro-Palestinian marches. I support the right to protest. I don't think you have to be biased. You have to go by a synagogue. You don't have to intimidate people. But when the police are basically saying to Jewish people who are, oh, how dare to be openly Jewish, and other campaigners, that you can't be there on the sidelines because there will be trouble. What they're saying is, we can't protect you, we won't protect you, and we're not able to stand up to the violent threats of the people in that crowd. It's unacceptable, and it has been for a long time, and no action seems to happen. Talking about action, it is very interesting. I'm sure you've noticed as much as I have the abject silence from all the lovies and all the Be Kind Brigade who've been bleating on about how they barely sleep a wink and they cry every night over what's happened in Gaza. The Gary Linekers, the Greta Thunbergs and everybody. Remarkable quiet over the issue of innocent Iranian youngsters going onto the streets to demand just the most basic level of freedom and a normal life. And we're told between, the figures are difficult, we don't know, somewhere between 2,000, some of the top estimates suggesting even 20,000 of those people massacred on the streets by their own government. Absolute tumbleweed going across social media in terms of those people actually thinking it's worth talking about. What do you make of that?
It's just extraordinary. It's repugnant. This silence that people are engaging in as the Iranians fight for their lives, fight for freedom, fight for the fundamental liberties that we are lucky enough to enjoy. The left is looking the other way. So-called progressives are looking the other way. Greta Thunberg hasn't said a word. No. Maybe she suddenly discovered that climate change is an important issue again, and she's going to shut up about the Middle East. You know, they're not saying anything. There are no flotillas going there to help them. There are no Gary Lineker tweets or Instagram stories, none of it. They've really exposed themselves to the world, these people, because we can now see the double standards and hypocrisy of their so-called activism. You know, what's happening in Iran is young women are fighting for fundamental freedoms, and so-called feminists in the West are saying nothing. The kind of feminists who think it's a patriarchal crime to be called darling are saying nothing about these women putting their lives on the line for the right to live as they want to live. And then the left has been bleating about the Middle East non-stop for the past 2.5 years, going out on the streets in their kafirs and crying for justice in the Middle East. They've got nothing to say about this struggle for freedom. So we now know the only reason these people were obsessed with the Middle East is because they hate the Jewish state, and they don't actually care about justice or freedom in that part of the world, and everyone can now see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's clear for everyone to see. Well, Brendan, you're the author of a brilliant book, After the Pogrom, 7th of October, Israel and the Crisis of Civilization, and the repercussions of that just continue, do they not? Brendan, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you. Always great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. Claire Pissell, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, it's amazing how many of these stories kind of tie in with each other. Yeah. But it is, I mean, as Brendan Little's book makes clear, a crisis of civilization now.
It absolutely is. And of course, people who are protesting over here saying how awful the Israeli regime is have absolutely no idea of what goes on in that region. Yeah. All they see is what comes up on their social media that's being fed to them.
They abject nonsense about
it. They do abject nonsense, complete.
But they're not bothered about what goes on in Iran.
They're not. And that is worse, especially when you're looking at the plight of Iranian women, who are incredibly brave and currently at the moment are the ones out there on the streets. Yeah. Risking their lives and making sure that other people have freedom. But it was very much started by them.
And again, there's a lot of lefty feminists in this country who, for some reason, think that, you know, covering your hair, even covering your face, is a feminist statement. I mean, they're all insane, if you ask me. But there we are. Love to hear your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Do get in touch. Let me tell you also, we've got a competition we're going to be telling you about in the next hour. Up next, though, we are going to be talking to the landlord, the pub landlord, who started the No Labour MPs in Pubs campaign. Andy Lennox is up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, this is Talk, the Home of Common Sense, for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Delighted to welcome now a man who's just done, well, I mean, it's an utterly brilliant campaign, and I've no doubt he may well be the man who ends up delivering us the 14th U-turn that we'll get from this government after the 13th one announced yesterday about digital ID cards. Andy Lennox, he's the landlord of the Old Thatch pub in Wimborne. He's also the man who started the No Labour MPs in Pubs campaign, which seems to have gone down rather badly with Labour MPs, understandably. Andy Lennox, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, yeah, how you doing? You all right?
Very well indeed. I love this campaign. Interestingly, this is sort of, you know, people do petitions. People, you know, oh, I'm right to my local MP. Actually, mate, you can't come in your local pub if you've supported a budget which has made life even harder for publicans and their customers. That's kind of where you hit them where it hurts. Tell us why you thought of that, and who is your local MP that you banned?
So exactly. I mean, I've done the petitions, we've written our letters to MPs, and we've just got to that stage now where it's, you know, enough was enough. My local MP down here is Tom Hayes, who's where the Ground Zero event kind of was, with one of our members, the James at the Larder House. And we just kind of said, look, enough is enough. We've got to do something. We've got to do something that's going to resonate. This is our industrial action, essentially. So banning 404 MPs. You know, this is let's go and try and really cut through. Yeah, absolutely. And I say it does hit them where it hurts. And the reality is, you know, pubs are hurting. We've been talking about this. I was banging on about this during the lockdown period when pubs were really struggling and not getting the sort of help they needed. And then when pubs were allowed to reopen, and pubs would
struggling beforehand, you know, the smoking ban and other issues as well beforehand, and high rates and the taxes. But then when they were allowed to reopen, everyone went, oh, well, they're fine now. But of course, reopening with 2 metres distance, you couldn't make a profit. And then national insurance rise, massively hitting hospitality, and the minimum wage rises. Again, we want to pay young people more, but, you know, are they worth 26.5k plus all the national insurance as well? And then we've got this business rates issue, haven't we? Because at the last budget, Rachel Reeves putting out all this stuff that she was going to be helping pubs in the budget. And as it was, in the little small print, pubs got hit harder, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the business rates is the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, you've just mentioned all of the other things that we've got in this industry that we just are struggling to afford to pay as it is. You know, to then basically, you know, re-engage with all of your Labour MPs, re-engage with the Chancellor. I mean, we had a letter hand-delivered to the Chancellor. We had people go to number 11. Yeah. To then have more taxation come onto the onto the pubs was just unbelievable. And it's, you know, the whole of hospitality is really struggling here. And, you know, we're calling for a VAT cut to 13% in line with Europe. That is the kind of relief that we need. You know, getting rid of it and getting a U-turn on a tax that we're not already paying now yet anyway is really important. So we're looking to hear what happens with in the next couple of days, and what that U-turn looks like. But essentially, really, to sort out the industry as it is, a VAT cut to 13% is what's needed.
That would be what really helps. But talk us through the business rates, because from the stories in the front page of the Times today is that more than 5,000 pubs had their business rates doubled. And the Treasury knew that when they were doing these figures. They knew that about the scale. Rachel Reeves would have known, her aides would have known, and she went ahead with this anyway. Talk through how, you know, most of us don't run a small business, run a pub. Yeah. How much are business rates for the, I mean, I know it'll vary massively, a country pub, a pub on a main high street in a major city, but how much of the cost of running a pub are your business rates, and how much are they going up by for a lot of these pubs?
So look, if I take my pub, for example, 116% is the uplift in the rates.
More than
so
doubling.
Essentially, oh yeah, more than doubling. And essentially, obviously, we had some COVID relief in there beforehand. That's been removed. It's actually been said today that the Treasury obviously did know, but also that Rachel Reeves knew.
Yeah, but how much is it going up from? Because if it's going from £100 to £200, people go, well, you can afford that. How much is it going up from and to?
So mine's going from 33,000 to 86,000. And ultimately, when you look at that, okay, yes, of course you pay.
And that's all the relief going and the doubling. That, I mean, you've got to find basically another 50k. From your profits.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you pay a multiple of that, etc., and stuff like that. But in essence, that's how much the rateable value's gone up by. Wow. We will then have to find half of that. Yeah. So it's essentially the equivalent of 100,000 pints. So if we make 14p in a pint, we've got to basically buy another 100,000 pints to pay for the uplift. Yeah. And you're in a situation. That's one
hell of a promo, now, isn't it, at the weekend?
and the problem you're in a situation is that the hospitality can't afford to pay the taxation that it already has. Yeah. We already currently pay 44p in every pound in taxation. You know, you're basically looking at an industry that is already under an immense tax burden. We already generate over 60 billion in taxation for the economy. Yeah. You know, people say, oh well, you know, you have to pay your way. We do pay our way.
You already pay.
We pay our way over and over
and
again.
A lot of people don't understand. Again, we talk about on the show a lot how important hospitality is as an employer. I mean, I certainly, you know, one of my first jobs was making pub lunches. I pulled pint in many a pub through my way through uni, and it's fantastic experience people can get as well. It's a great way to start. But those jobs just are not happening because pubs are struggling to get people through the door, aren't they? And it's a massive employer, a massive part of our appeal to tourists as well, who again are a massive source of income in this country. But one of the big issues is not even just you can't afford the tax on the drinks, neither can your customers, can they? They got used to what a pint cost or what a bottle of wine cost at home, and they bought it from the supermarket in 2020 and 2021, and now they bulk at the prices in a pub, but not understanding, you know, you've got the rents, the heating, the water rates.
They don't understand that you're making 14p in a pint.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you know, look, youth unemployment is a really important part for me as well. You know, pubs and hospitality is where you have your first job. You know, it's where you're a 16-year-old, you might be quite shy, you come in, you start to learn your first social skills. You will then go on and use those social skills for the rest of your life. Yeah. And we can't afford to employ those people. And you're going to have this real problem where you've got children that have come out of COVID who are already struggling with social skills, who are now not going to be able to get their first job. For every job that I have at the moment that has for a 16-year-old, I'm having 20 or 30 applicants. Yeah. You know, because they can't get the jobs. And so if you have that alongside basically, you know, a situation where, you know, people can't afford to come out, we're actually a very, very busy pub.
Good.
You know, so that the irony is we've got people coming out, but we're not making any money.
No, but that's the but I know, I mean, January doesn't help at all either. But you know, I was in a pub on Sunday with the family, absolutely packed, doing pub lunches, big roast. I mean, absolutely packed, and it was wonderful to see. I was in a pub. Okay, it was Tuesday lunchtime with the tea, a belated Christmas drink. There were 2 tables. We were the only people eating. I'm thinking, they've got a whole pub open. You're not, I mean, this is a really big concern. And the reality is that a lot of pubs are closing. People just say, I can't manage it anymore. The pubs are closing.
Look, two hospitality venues to close every day. Yeah. And that is its essence. I mean, 2 venues every single day.
And once
they're
gone,
ecosystem.
They're gone.
And it's not just the venues, so they're little ecosystems. You know, they employ musicians, they employ cleaners, they employ fishmongers, they employ butchers. They keep all of these people. You know, local breweries. The reason they're closing so much is because you've got lots of pubs and lots of restaurants closing. Yeah. And ultimately, these little ecosystems, as they disappear, they don't come back. And this is where, you know, the ripple effect is massive. And what we're saying essentially is, look, we need to have a VAT cut to 13%. That VAT cut will bring inflation down. It will bring the cost of living down. It will then basically be able to use that. It will keep people employed. It will then, the ecosystem will ripple out to everywhere else.
It will actually bring in more money long term, because again, I don't think the government thinks like that. Look, you keep banning these Labour MPs from the pubs. Andy Lennox, landlord of the Old Thatch in Wimborne, spokesman for the No Labour MPs in Pubs campaign. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Claire Pearsall listening to all that. I'm going to get your response to all of that. It's such an important part of our economy. I'd love to hear your response as well. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 11. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer, and whether you're listening on DAB Plus radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, it's absolutely fabulous to have you join me. Fabulous also to have former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pearcell join us in the studio. I'd love to get your response to our last interview in just a few moments. But if you do miss anything from the show, don't forget you can go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. Hit subscribe, you never have to miss a thing. We are going to be talking more about Labour abandoning its plans for mandatory digital IDs for workers. U-turn number 13. I wonder what number 14 is going to be. Going to be talking more about those pub goers basically facing higher pint prices, just literally so that pubs can try and stay afloat, as we've been hearing from the man who started that campaign just a few moments ago to ban Labour MPs from pubs until they got rid of all these rises in taxes, business rates, VAT, you name it, on pubs. Plus, Keir Starmer has been branded Peking's poodle as he's set to approve plans for China's super embassy just across the river from where I am right now. If you want to have your say on any of the big topics, in particular on that compulsory digital ID U-turn, the U-turn is only on the compulsory bit, the mandatory bit. They're still going to bring them in, and they'll still, let's face it, make life a bit difficult for people who, and then increasingly difficult, maybe impossible for people who refuse to have that digital ID. What is your reaction to that U-turn? What does that tell us about this government? What are your fears for digital ID? Or do you think, actually, well, we should have compulsory digital ID for workers? If you do think that, you're probably listening to the wrong station, but you're welcome anyway. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1. Standard network rate message. Claire Pearcell, I do want to get your response because I didn't get a chance to, because it was so interesting talking to our last guest, Andy Lennox, landlord of the Old Thatch in Wimborne pub, about this campaign about pubs, because we're talking a lot about, budgets, we talk a lot about, international affairs, but you know what, a lot of people just want to go, frankly, they go to work. Yeah. They go to the supermarket, they pick the kids up from school, they book their holiday once a year or twice a year if they're lucky, and then they go to the pub on a Friday night. And very soon a lot of those pubs aren't going to exist, and they're not going to exist simply directly because of the policies that this government has been bringing in, and the last government as well, where they are just taxing pubs out of existence, whether it's national insurance for employers, whether it's the extra minimum wage. Again, lots of people out there starting job, as mine was. I'm sure loads of people listening and watching were, and as this our landlord Andy Lennox was telling us, just like their business rates doubling, needing to get tens and tens of thousands of extra pounds, and they desperately need this VAT cut so they can just afford to give a pint that people are willing to pay a price for.
And this is it. And I went to a pub at the weekend, had a lovely Sunday lunch, absolutely packed. Yeah. It really was. And the people there that were serving, there was one lad, it was his first weekend, his first job. I mean, he was really nervous, but absolutely lovely, very, very helpful.
Did you keep asking for things to be difficult? No, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you were lovely.
I smiled at him nicely because you
he thought you were crazy.
He probably did. He's a crazy woman in the corner. But it was brilliant, and the atmosphere there was amazing. But then you look at the pubs that we've lost. Yeah. Two pubs very near to me, one of which we used to ride to on the horses. He used to have a little rail outside. I mean, this is country living. Yeah. But of course,
they're
Labour
really important parts of the local community, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I'm saying, I mean, just talking the break, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this story or not, but among my many jobs, I worked at a burger takeaway, fastest till girl in the West, I'm telling you, chopping onions and garlic on a Saturday. But I had a Saturday and Sunday job in one of my local pubs where I grew up, and I was 16, 17, and it was one of my very first jobs, and I made pub lunches, so it was all baked potato, lasagna. I was doing a lot of microwaving. Yeah. Let's be honest, there wasn't much fancy cooking there, and they'd do a raffle ticket. You know that thing, you go, and it's before everyone had fancy receipts and all the digital. We're talking the 80s here, people, and so you'd have a book of raffle tickets, and someone would get, here's your number 14. I'd have the number 14 with the order, and I'd come out and go, number 14, 2 baked potatoes with beans, and then I give it to the customers. And one day, one of my first orders was number 69, okay? So I read number 60, 69, so I gave that order out. The next order, I read, it's number 69 again. And I went, number 69. All the pub's laughing. It's mostly blokes. Everyone's laughing, right? Third order. I twigged at this point. One of the guys behind the bar, who I was very good friends with, he had taken not just one raffle book, there was a whole box of them sitting there in the storage. He'd taken the same raffle ticket number from every single raffle book, every single order at lunch that day. Who wants a 69 was the shout out I had to give in the pub. The whole pub killing themselves. Now, to this day, I can't work out why that's funny. Maybe you want to message in and help me. I don't know why that's funny, but people found it very amusing. Here's the thing. Everyone would be sacked on the spot today, wouldn't they? Wouldn't be allowed. This was when life was fun.
And it's such a shame because no harm came to anybody. You had a joke played against you.
Frankly, I nuked a few baked potatoes, I've got to be honest with you.
Yes.
It was genuinely, it was properly funny. You know what, though? Even as a 16, 17-year-old lass, there was no way I was going to go, I'm complaining, or I was upset about it. I mean, I wasn't anyway. I thought it was funny. I pushed on through, straight-faced every time.
But then
69, straight face. I was not going to give in. I think I got a lot of cred for that.
I think you do, and that sets you up for life.
I could sue someone now.
Oh, you could have.
It was the Assembly Inn in Bath. It was the Assembly Inn. I could have sued.
Who did you work for? What was the guy's name? Did he cause you grief?
It was a great place to work. I had a great laugh. Anyway, those were the happy days, people. Those were the happy days. But again, I don't think 16 to 17-year-olds can get jobs in pubs anymore. As I was saying, 30 applicants for everything. Anyway. That's our pub story. Love to hear yours. Get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Right. Let's talk right now about that U-turn. The 13th U-turn by Keir Starmer. He's only been in office since July 24. 13. I know. I keep pointing out that Donald Trump has not been in office a whole year this time round. Yeah. It's less than a year. Keir Starmer. It's over 18 months. I mean, it feels like or about 18 months. It feels so much longer, doesn't it? I think it's like when he's talking, it just feels longer, doesn't it? He's only been talking for a minute. It feels like an hour. Yeah. 13th U-turn, second in just this year. We are only 2 weeks in. There's already been a U-turn before this one. He's ditched the mandatory element of digital ID cards. Mm-hmm. But digital ID cards are still going to go ahead. Let's have a watch and a listen of what he had to say. Big fanfare this back in September when, out of the blue, not in his manifesto, no one's mentioned this other than Tony Blair every third sentence, that he's going to bring in mandatory digital ID cards to tackle illegal workers. Here's what he had to say.
This government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
I love it's as simple as that. I can't bear listening to him. I really, really struggle, Claire. Yeah. What do you make of the road back? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think that we can now go and relax, nothing to worry about?
Right, yes, it's a good thing. We don't need it. We didn't want it. Nobody asked for it. But I also don't trust this government to stick to the fact that it isn't going to be rolled out in the future, because we know that they really want it. They want everybody to have to go around with mandatory ID.
Why?
So they can control what we're doing.
Do you think they think things through that much? I don't think they thought this through. I think someone literally who used to work for Tony Blair went, what about this? This might work, announce this.
And I think that's the problem.
They do talk like that.
Is that they've picked up a policy from Tony Blair because they thought, well, he was really successful, so therefore whatever he says is going to be really good. Mm. And so they packaged that for now without really looking at the details.
What should we say it's for? Oh, illegal workers. I mean, everyone knows it wasn't going to tackle that because the people who are employing illegal workers from abroad aren't checking it. They know he can't speak English, mate. He's just got off a dinghy. Of course, he lives in the local asylum hotel. Of course he's not allowed to work. You know that. You're employing him because you're paying him £2 an hour instead of minimum wage.
He's got the same name as the 10 other people that have also come to you.
So she used to work at the Home Office, she knows.
I've seen a few things, but it was never going to stop that particular problem because there is already a checking service, and if an employer doesn't use it, they're unlikely to want somebody's
And if you want to, again, if it's too easy for people to work it, it's because you're not actually prosecuting and finding out the employers who are doing this, which you could easily do, couldn't you? I mean, that's the reality. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call 0344 499 1000 on this. Text the word talk to 87222. Message on X at Talk TV. Don't forget your calls are charged the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. But here's my thing. I mean, message to Keir Starmer. I mean, hi, if you're watching or listening. And Keir, you really should, because you'd be more in touch with what people actually think in this country rather than just sitting around your North London dinner parties. I'm going to throw out an idea here, and you may think it's a bit crazy, you may think it's a bit old-fashioned, but here's an idea. Why not, instead of just announcing policies just randomly off the cuff because someone mentioned it over your fancy carbonara in a North London restaurant on Saturday night, why don't you have some thought through philosophies and plans for what you want to do to this country? Why don't you engage people who really know about a topic and do some research? Why don't you find out what people might think about it? Why don't you find out how you could make it work, how much it will cost, when it can be achieved, or what it will actually achieve? Talk to people in the real world. And then when you announce a policy, people might take it more seriously, because right now, every single policy announcement you make, we can fully expect that within 6 months, who knows, within 6 weeks, there will likely be a U-turn. We can't take anything that you say or you do seriously because you don't take anything that you say or you do seriously. You just make it up as you're going along. And it's becoming really rather too obvious. Labour were out of power for 14 years. You were Labour opposition leader for 4 years. You had quite a lot of time to plan, to decide what you want to do with this country, where you want to go. Your manifesto said there would be change. We thought you might want to use that change to improve things. I may not even have agreed with some of the changes you wanted to make, but if you had a mandate for it, you promised it, well, who am I to disagree with the democratic will of the British people? You did that over Brexit, but some of us actually are Democrats, Prime Minister. But the change you want isn't apparently the change you want. It's just you changing your mind every few minutes, basically just buffeted by the wind, buffeted by the waves, by what anyone has said or criticised you for the day before. This is no way to run a country. The reality is, Prime Minister, you're not up to the job. You are devoid of ideas, devoid of morals, devoid of a backbone, devoid of any philosophy. You wanted to be Prime Minister. You didn't know why you wanted to be Prime Minister. And my God, we can't work it out. We haven't got a clue after watching you be Prime Minister for 18 months. The time has come, long past now, I would say, for you to go. I'm pretty sure that whoever comes after you is going to be even worse. But I struggle to believe that they could be. You don't have a plan. You don't have a clue. You don't have a policy. As I say, you don't have a backbone. You're not a Prime Minister. You are in office, you are not in power, and you need to go. Put us all out of our misery, for the love of God, man. That's my message to the Prime Minister. I fear, Claire, he won't be listening.
No, I fear he won't, because that would interrupt his listening to whichever BBC broadcast that he's currently going to base his opinions on.
Don't know, does he even like the BBC anymore? I don't know. Even they are coming down pretty hard on U-turn after U-turn after U-turn. They largely don't agree with the U-turns. We largely do. Of the 13 we've had, some of them are good, some of them
sensible. Bad. We're the sensible side on this argument.
Home of common sense, mate.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to see what the sort of Spotify playlist of the Prime Minister looks like.
Oh, good God. Don't.
It would just be really
But again,
bad.
even on the PR side, we mentioned this in the last hour, this big announcement about North of England Rail, you know, between Liverpool and Manchester, and I've been crying out for that. I don't live in the North, but it's really obvious to me that more and more, you know, transport hubs being created in the South. Can we please invest in the North? Our great northern and Midland cities, which are crying out for better transport links. I mean, spend some money there where it's really needed. And they do. I know, and it's not done. So this is a good announcement. They've completely, technical term, bucketed up by then making this U-turn yesterday, which obviously was going to lead all the papers. It meant when the Transport Secretary went out, Heidi Alexander, everyone's asking her about that. Now, I'm of the view she's actually one of the government's better performers, largely. But, you know, she's having to talk about something that's not in her remit there. But then everyone's having a go at them because it's not good. This rail isn't going to be built before 2030. Well, of course it's not going to be built before 2030. But, you know, if they can get the Heathrow third runway started, that's a start. They've been talking about that for 50 years, for goodness sake. We've got to get this country functioning. So when there's actually something good that they're doing, they don't even get the credit for that.
Well, no, they don't, because it's now been buried under all of the rest of the stuff that happened last night. But this is why the comms need to be so much better. If you were sitting there in number 10, you'd go, right, this is all going horribly wrong. And this happened yesterday, sort of early evening. So you have time to pull stuff very quickly.
Yeah,
take it out of the announcement list for this morning. You can pull that all back because it would have been embargoed anyway. And you move it to another day when it's going to get better traction, it's going to get better coverage and better pickup, because it is a much better story to tell.
Yep.
You do need to look at not just north-south, but east-west rail up in the north and the Midlands.
Absolutely. Here's a story that is definitely also I think is going to come back on the government quite a lot. The Home Secretary is going to make a statement at the Commons later today. She's received His Majesty Inspector for Constabulary's report into the police handling of that Maccabi Tel Aviv fan ban and all the repercussions since then. She's got that report. She's going to make that statement and release that report today. I think it's going to be damning. I mean, if it isn't, this guy ain't paid attention to what's been going on. Even today, we've got the latest revelation with an apology from the Chief Constable of Westminster Police, Craig Guilford, for using... blows my mind. They're using AI to research any fan trouble with the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, and that AI delivered a football match against West Ham where there had been fan trouble, which they put into their report, and their justification, post facto, after they decided to ban the Israeli fans from attending this match in Birmingham in November, but they said there had been trouble. This is an entirely made up match, never actually took place. It has never happened, and they didn't bother doing any checking. Makes you worry about policing in the West Midlands, does it not? Lie after lie after lie has been told. But there's no doubt that what it comes down to, and there's no way this guy can keep his job, he has to be told to go by this Police and Crime Commissioner, who's the man who appointed him, because they're all in cahoots. That wasn't supposed to be how Police and Crime Commissioners worked, in my view. I'm glad they're getting rid of them. But the main thing is, this is a chief of the police in the West Midlands area who's basically under the thumb of Islamist extremists running mosques and the local self-appointed community leaders in Birmingham, who basically said, we and local Gaza MPs, we don't want Jews, Israelis or Jews, same thing for them. Plenty of Arab Israelis, by the way. We don't want them in Birmingham. This is a no Jew go area. And if they are here, we're going to cause trouble. There will be trouble. And even on the day when that match went ahead with officially no fans allowed, there were, in the police logs, groups of 100, up to 100 at a time, masked Asian youths, it's a euphemism, Muslim youths, looking for Jews, intending violence. Okay, now I'm sorry, this is absolutely against every principle of policing in this country. You worked at the Home Office. Everybody involved needs to be out on their ear, don't they?
Yeah, they absolutely do. How can you trust this Chief Constable to run a police service in the area if that is the attitude that is coming down from the top? Because you know full well, if that is being disseminated out, then the rank and file are also going to have very similar views and a very similar view to the Jewish community in that area. So, need to go. Let's get rid of. Should have gone already. And if he had any respect, would have fallen on his sword last year.
Also, we need arrests. I want the local people who said, the Islamist extremists who basically threatened violence. I want them arrested. I mean, people have been arrested for far less for a tweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not difficult to find them. The police will know exactly who they are. They know the area. I mean,
they spoke to them.
Exactly. So they will know to be able to go back and get them.
If you're threatening violence against someone being in your city because of their faith or their nationality, you are committing a crime and you need to be arrested and charged. I don't think that's complicated.
No, it isn't. And I think everybody will agree with you. And in that area, they need to stand up.
I don't think everyone will agree with me. That's what's so darn terrifying.
People will.
Let's talk international affairs, though. Trump told the Iranian protesters yesterday, help is on the way. He told them to get back out on the streets. By all accounts, again, difficult to know with that 6-day internet blackout and even Elon Musk's Starlink being blocked, that, we're having videos dripping out, but people are now not going out on the streets in the same numbers after being called down by the Crown Prince, the exiled Crown Prince of the Shah's son, who basically go out on the streets day after day. They're going out and they are being shot at by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the claims are minimum 2,000 people have been shot, but it could be up to 20,000. They are also deliberately wounding people. Apparently they're going into hospitals and then they're killing people in the hospitals. arresting them. We've got what is supposed to be like the first official execution. A 26-year-old shopkeeper, Irfan Sultani. He's a young man who just went out on the protest on the streets. He is due to be hanged today after summary justice, i.e. no justice whatsoever. Donald Trump said, a week or 2 weeks ago, if you do this, Iran, we will be there to help people. People went out on the streets because they thought that the US was going to be there. He's saying that help is on its way. What help can Donald Trump send? And shouldn't he have acted before now?
Yes, he should. When he was asked directly this was last week, what help looks like, what is it that you're suggesting, and he said you'll have to wait and see.
And you have to figure it out.
Figure it out for yourself. And you just think, no, right.
But it's not a game, mate.
This is not. These are people's lives.
This is our sons and daughters going out on the streets. And it was here, our sons and daughters going out on the streets demanding basic freedoms.
And it is the younger generations who are encouraging people to get up, be active and say that they've had enough of this regime. And the young women especially, I'm just in awe of them because their lives are absolutely in danger.
God, these people are so brave.
For something so basic as the ability to walk around the streets.
They're doing more than putting a flag in a bio or wearing a keffiyeh. I mean, they're actually they're really, I am in awe. And I sort of think, God, would I risk that? Would it change anything if I got shot? And you think, there are moments in countries' history where something happens and it does change things. Yeah. Often it doesn't. That's the terrible thing this is a regime that can get away with killing 20,000 people, many of them young, and then they're still in power. Not everyone's saying the regime is going to fall, but not necessarily in the next week. It could be in the next 2 years.
And the problem is that there isn't a sort of proper opposition group for them to coalesce around at the moment. So what is your alternative?
I'm not returning to the Crown Prince. Is quite
the rule of the Shah. I mean, is that the way forward?
Let's not pretend that was it was an autocratic, very nasty regime. Not as nasty as the lunatic mullahs, but it was a nasty regime.
But it wasn't perfect either. Yeah. So until something comes together that is a bit more of a concrete example of what an opposition looks like. I mean, I think that this is a long-term problem, but those Iranian people need to have the right to decide how their country is run.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on digital ID. Keir Starmer's abandoned plans for compulsory digital ID for workers. It's not going to be compulsory yet, a lot of you are pointing out, but they're still going to bring it in. Will it become one of those things that, you kind of have to have it? You don't have to have it, but you kind of do. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. First up, though, time now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star Intercontinental Hotel, and £2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl. To top it all off, listen to how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
You do not want to miss out on that. Very good luck. Right now, let's take a quick break. Then we'll get to your calls. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. What a surprise. All the calls are about digital ID. Tarquin is on the line in London. Good morning to you, Tarquin. Are you happy about this U-turn?
Good morning. Happy New Year, Julia. Not at all, obviously, not at all, because I think what we need to do, we need some definitive situation update on this. And I think possibly, given that they're not being forthcoming exactly at what their plans are, clearly, maybe we should approach, we being collectively, we the people, should approach the Tony Blair Institute and get a statement from them, because they seem to be driving this whole project.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
definitely. But the thing is, they've said their plan was for compulsory digital ID. Now they're saying it won't be compulsory. But a lot of people are saying, well, it won't be it's still going to come in. It won't be at the start. But life's just going to get very difficult for people who don't have it.
Well, my concern is the ones you expressed earlier on, that this will, I think it will evolve into a social credit score system in maybe 3-5 years. I'm hoping that if we do get a reform strokes common sense party victory in 29, that whichever party it may be will actually just completely kibosh the whole goddamn.
I think they have said they would do that. Can we double check that? I'm pretty sure. Okay. Let's not do a West Midlands police check on AI. Let's actually double check what they've actually said. Might just make it up, might make up a whole new political party. But that's the thing. You just don't trust them, because this always comes down to this thing that it does seem to me that our political class largely just generally thinks that we're not to be trusted, and therefore we need to be controlled. They want to control what adverts we see. Of fast food. They want to control where food is in the supermarket aisle, for goodness sake. They think we're idiots.
They do. Well, I think what happens is that they can't really deal with real-world problems, granny freezing to death from hypothermia. But what they can do is tinker with IT. They've been doing it for 30 years with NHS system. They rip out a system, they put in the post office, put in Horizon, and send honest people to prison. They're really good at IT, aren't they, Julia?
They love an announcement. Yeah. They love saying things. They love it. But even interesting, like the Lib Dems yesterday, Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, was making an announcement how they're going to tackle 12-hour waits in hospital beds. And the main part of that announcement was you're not allowed to have people waiting on hospital. Hey, you can make as many. You can make as many announcements as you want, mate. But you actually have to do something, and it involves massive, investment and changes in management structure, and they're not very good at the actual implementation.
They're correct. And I think this is the problem with current politics, is that the people who used to do real work, i.e. once upon a time the objective civil servants, have now become blue-haired woke numpties. They do nothing. Absolutely. They just clock in and clock out. They try and sit at home on their bottoms in their slinkies, just lolloping around saying, I'm a public sector worker, you can't sack me. So basically we're stuffed, because those are the workers. They don't do I was very worried about what word was coming out there. Thank you for editing, Tarquin. Thank you. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Just double check. 100%. Nigel Farage has said very clearly they would scrap the ID plan. Whatever the Labour spends on it, it's going to be a waste of money. And we knew that anyway. Let's go to Paula, who is in Herefordshire. And Paula, you want to have your say on digital ID. What do you want to say?
Well, I agree with everything that last gentleman said, but also this cretin of a Prime Minister stood on the steps of 10 Downing Street and told us all that he and his government would step lightly on our lives.
Yes, didn't he?
And what is he wearing? Concrete boots? Because I'm feeling everything.
This is the thing, and then Caller made the point earlier again. This urge to control every tiny aspect of our lives, what we eat, the car we drive, how we heat our homes, all that. Instead of we just want control the borders, make sure the streets are safe. And then just leave us alone.
Yes, that's all we need. To be left alone, to live our lives, to get on with working, to get on with paying taxes when it's sensible to, and to just carry on being nice to each other. And my heart goes out to all the people, the ladies and gentlemen in Iran who are trying to survive, and also our Jewish friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Paula, thank you. No, carry on. Apologies, I thought you finished. Sorry, carry on.
No, I'm just absolutely fed up with the way they treat nice people.
Yeah.
And all the horrible ones are getting the freeway. But I do hope if we end up in the same cell, Julia, it's with you.
Can I have the top bunk? Everyone tells me it's the top bunk I need.
I don't like heights.
It's only a matter of time, Paula. It's only a matter of time. I'll see you in there. I make rubbish porridge, by the way. Paula, thank you so much for your call. 11:33 is the time. We'll take a quick break. There's someone, I definitely want to share a prison cell with. Baroness Kate Hoey is here. This is Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back. 11:34 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearce also with me as well. Delighted to be joined by, apparently, my next cellmate, Baroness Kate Hoey, independent peer and former Labour MP. Good morning to you, Kate.
Good morning, Julia.
I don't know if you heard what Paula, our caller, said. She said, if we end up in prison, she wants to share a cell with me. I said to the team while we were in the break, it's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
Oh, well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who want to join.
Well, I keep a tight ship. I do keep a tight ship, though, in the cell. But, you know, I'm happy to have you in there as well. Listen, I mean, we may end up in there because we won't be having our mandatory digital ID. Apparently, it's not going to be mandatory. Government is U-turn. We'll get back to the fact that it's a 13th U-turn by this government. But first, we're just focusing on it's a digital ID for workers, apparently, but it's not going to be compulsory. Are you relieved by this U-turn, or are you still concerned about the digital ID?
Well, I wouldn't trust the government an inch on this whole issue. But I mean, it is a move to try and show that they're listening slightly to what the outrage was really about the original announcement.
And there really was, and it was across the board, across the political spectrum.
It was. It's the whole mandatory, compulsory aspect of it, I think, and the idea that it was sold as a way of kind of stopping illegal working by migrants is just nonsense, because they could do that already. There is the laws there. They've got it just hasn't happened. So I think this was just an excuse to bring in something that, you know, governments want to do. It's all about controlling. It's all about working, you know, making sure that they know what we're doing. And I mean, it's a typical example of that is trying to even talk about banning X, which would be, again, something that, you know, would just be outrageous if that happened. But, you know, again, for me, and I suppose for a lot of people, the worrying thing is that it actually shows, you know, the government doesn't really think things through.
No.
Or else, either they're doing this deliberately and then looking like, aren't we wonderful, we're U-turning when we're listening, even if it's not a real U-turn. Or I think more likely is they just do not think things through. They want to make out an announcement and something. They don't work out the unintended consequences. And we have a situation like this where it doesn't look like the government's really in control.
Yeah, I mean, it is just abject incompetence as far as I can tell. Look, you were a Labour MP. You know a lot of the people, certainly, you know, in the Blair government. I mean, obviously, the digital ID thing. I've been genuine. I've been joking about this for years. Whatever the topic is, I'm going, oh, Tony Blair's got a solution for this. It's digital ID cards. He's obsessed with it. Absolutely obsessed. He's obviously got in cahoots with some company that if they can get digital ID, he's going to make billions from it. That's how these things work. Always follow the money trail. But we know that a lot of old Blairite ministers and advisors are back in number 10, and they're clearly pushing a lot of his policies. But I mean, in terms of how this government thinks, these people think, I mean, I was a political editor. I spent a lot of time, you know, talking to advisors, a lot of time in Westminster. I don't spend any time in Westminster anymore. I much prefer to be out of that bubble because I think that bubble's insane. And I think that's the reason why people who are in that bubble did such a bad job during lockdown, because they were sitting there and going, oh, this is a good idea. And they weren't outside of it. So I think it works better for me over the long run. But what is their thinking? You know a lot of these people. How are they coming up with their ideas, and how much are they listening to what, you know, people on the street, people who run businesses, people who are going about their daily lives that are actually thinking?
Well, I'm afraid there is a bubble in Westminster. I mean, there's always been a bit of a bubble, but I think it's a lot worse now because we've got a lot of members of Parliament who've come in with really very, very little, if any, experience of the outside world. You know, they've gone right through the sort of system of being university, working for an MP, getting into being some kind of spad, then staying in a bubble, and they don't talk to, you know, inverted commas, ordinary people. Yeah. That is a real problem. And I think there is no doubt about it that the influence in this government of the Tony Blair ideas are very much stronger. He's got some, you know, people there in the very top in the Cabinet Office and so on who were his kind of supporters and very strong supporters and have kept in touch. And I think a lot of this ID stuff is very much being driven. I mean, of course, you know, technology is changing and we are going to see a lot more things happen that someone of my age isn't really that interested in doing. But we always have to remember that so many people have no access, no desire to have access, and certainly want to still deal with real people when they're talking on the phone to them.
And they don't. And again, look, there's access. You can get ID. You know, even if you know. Again, like to vote, I've got no problem with people having to show ID to vote. I really don't. You can get ID for free from the government, you know, if you're on benefits of the like.
Oh, absolutely.
But this is the key thing. I have no problem with people having to show ID. Yeah, I mean, I always go back to when I first opened a Blockbuster video account. You had to show 2 forms of ID to get your Blockbuster video account. I think it's extraordinary. You don't have to show any ID until recently to vote. It's madness, okay? But I'm showing my age there. But this is the thing. I've got no problem with showing ID. I show a passport. I've got a driving licence. I have to show ID to pick up a package at the Amazon counter, for goodness sake. This is perfectly reasonable that people should have to show who they are when they want a particular service. What we don't want is that papers, please society where if you're required to carry it, the police could then be justified in saying, are you carrying it or not? But the other key thing here is it's the digital, isn't it, aspect. This is not a card like your driving licence and everyone having it, and it's got your name and your address, and you know whether you've got points on your licence and you're not allowed to drive or whatever. It is a document. It's a card that it will be on your phone or whatever. It will move in. It'll be adjustable in real time, and that's where it gives the government control. And we saw what happened during COVID. We saw what happened with the call for vaccine passports. People having to tap into the pub to. I mean, I used to just do this with my phone. Never actually, you know, I'm not showing my medical records to anyone in this country. If another country requires it, that's up to me to choose to go there or not. That's up to them. But in this country, but that's where people don't trust it because it's real time and that's real time control.
Well, it's part of another reason why I'm very strongly in favour of keeping a cash society. Because, you know, the banks completely control us now in many ways, and you have to get a bank account for people have to have one almost now. But the other thing, isn't it rather interesting that so many Labour MPs were opposed to showing any identity to go and vote?
Yes.
You know, they didn't want to have an identity card of some kind to show, you know, your driving license or a government given one, just to be able to show that you're the person who's voting. And that is one of the most important aspects of democracy. So there's a lot of hypocrisy around. And I think we just have to keep a very close watch on this. And what is good is that I think both the Conservative Party, perhaps not as strongly as I'd like them to be, but certainly Reform, are not going to allow this to happen if they should form a government.
End of. This is going to be a key issue, isn't it, about privacy. Let's talk also about Iran. And I mean, the two aspects is one is Donald Trump promising help again yesterday, telling people to go back on the streets, protesters being executed on the streets, and one the first official, you know, hanging of a protester who's been supposedly through a trial, nothing that we would recognise as a trial, is happening today. That's 26-year-old shopkeeper Irfan Sultani. The president's saying, you know, help is on its way. First of all, what help and if any should Donald Trump give? But also after that, I want to talk to you about the lack of support from, you know, so many of the wokerati who cared so much about the Middle East in recent years, absolutely silent when it comes to the protesters in Iran.
Well, it took 2.5 weeks from the first protest before our Foreign Secretary deigned to actually put anything on Twitter, on X, or say anything publicly. And our Foreign Office has just sat back and virtually said nothing until literally in the last few days when they've been forced to come out with platitudes about, you know, opposing obviously what's going on, but not even summoning the Iranian ambassador. Now, I mean, to me, summoning the Iranian ambassador is just so elementary. But as I said, I think they should have been summoning him, telling him to pack his bags and leave. I actually don't see why we're allowing an Iranian embassy. You know, we should be closing that down.
Well, also this idea that we have to keep lines of communication open. Why? What for?
Well, because they're not going to listen to us in any way. Anyway, we have, you know, we don't have any real influence or on this. Clearly, the only person who has is Trump, and he has made these promises. And you know, it is slightly worrying if he goes back on some of the things he said. But then, what exactly is he going to do? I mean, ideally, and a lot of people won't like this. Ideally, I'd love him to be able to do what he did in Venezuela, simply go in and capture the Ayatollah and bring him out. Now, I don't think I don't think that's technically probably possible in the same way it happened in Venezuela. But clearly he can't not do anything. And I imagine they will be looking at ways of taking out some of the armaments areas, bombing some bits of Iran that they know. But the problem is then once you do that, you start killing ordinary Iranian civilians. And clearly it's a movement that is bottom up. It's being led by people who had no other involvement other than knowing that their lives need to be changed. Yeah. And it's just heartbreaking to see, the courage. I think that's what. Yes. And we, and you look at some of the things in our country that people don't even get out and demonstrate about something terrible that's happening here, and yet those people are prepared to go out knowing that some of their friends have been killed. Yeah, and it wasn't like they thought no one. They knew that they know exactly what happens. That people get shot on the streets. I think people have been shocked by the scale of it. But I think they've also been shocked by the fact that they were promised that Donald Trump would help, and it hasn't come. Yeah. Well, I mean, it still could happen. But, again, I have to, I'm not just because I'm on top, but I have to go at the BBC. I mean, they were appalling on this. They didn't cover it.
We didn't cover it enough here again, but we're not the state broadcaster, and we don't have a Persian BBC.
You don't have a World Service Persian putting lots of money into it, and we weren't getting. And then it did come across as if they were almost sort of thinking, oh well, we've got to be a little bit careful on this. They weren't careful on Gaza.
Well, that just brings me to the final question. I was touching on it earlier. That we've had all these people, they pontificate, these celebs. I mean, they're all going, well, I don't really know enough about the Iran situation. I don't want to get involved. Well, you appeared, judging by your messages, you knew absolutely sod all about what was going on in Gaza and Israel as well. They've been pontificating for the last 3 years, blaming Israel for everything. By the way, there are people online, the Candace Owens and others, literally blaming Israel for the uprisings and saying, in Tehran and across Iran right now. Israel's it's always the Jews, but it is fascinating when you actually have a genuine, as you say, bottom-up movement of ordinary people just wanting the most basic level of human rights in their country. Yeah. The Human Rights Wokarati Brigade, absolutely silent.
Yes, and just on, some of the celebrities who came out and put on Twitter, none of them have spoken out. Very, very few anyway. Certainly none of the leading ones that we'd expect. And I think also there's a lack of understanding about the history of Iran and Persia and how they're very different from the rest of the Arab world. Yeah, absolutely. Always so good to talk to you. Great wisdom as always. Baroness Kate Hoey, independent peer, former Labour MP. Thank you for that. Claire Pearsall, let's bring you back in again on what's going on in Iran. Coming back to what's going on here, what more could the government do? And I saw, the Foreign Secretary has called the Iranian, summoned the Iranian ambassador. He was in there for 19 minutes. And what did they give him? A tepid cup of tea? Was that his punishment? What's the point of that?
And I think that Kate Hoey hit the nail on the head. Why is he being dragged in and then not being told to lock up the doors when you're on your way out? Yeah. Because why are we entertaining this illusion of keeping the lines of communications open with a country that doesn't want to communicate with us and isn't going to listen to anything we say because they don't care?
Yeah. Well, this is the brilliant Melanie Phillips, who's been fantastic on the Israel issue, and just always says it like it is, and has been saying it like it is for years. She said, you've got to stop. You can't negotiate with religious lunatics. Yes. Which bit don't they understand?
It's like you can't negotiate with a toddler. You should never try. It never works out.
Given
in your
that most
favour.
Parents apparently try and do that, certainly in my local supermarket. Maybe that's a problem. But there we are. 11:47 is the time. Up next, going to be talking to Professor Anthony Gleeson, security intelligence expert, about that Chinese super embassy. Should it go ahead? Will it go ahead? That's up next. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:50 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's talk right now about, well, international affairs across the globe with Professor Anthony Gleeson, security and intelligence expert. Good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to talk to you about this Chinese super embassy and where we are with China. But first of all, I just want to ask you about Iran, because obviously that's such a pressing issue. Donald Trump has just issued a new statement about Greenland. But the key statement he's been making in the last couple of days is the one about Iran, where he has stated, help is coming, and telling people to go back onto the streets after we don't know, 2,000, some are saying even 20,000 young people have been killed on the streets by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. What do you make of the protests, and what do you think Donald Trump can and should do?
Well, I think what Donald Trump can and should do is basically shut up. He's making this worse because the United States is in no position to intervene on behalf of the protesters. All he's doing is encouraging the protesters to risk their lives. Yeah. And we hear this young chap's about to be executed, we're told this morning, and making America look silly. We've seen a dramatic turn, to be honest, in the way in which Donald Trump is behaving. So last year, in 2025, Trump was the kind of the peacemaker, reluctant to show American muscle, and above all, reluctant to intervene and to risk American lives in forever wars. Now, people like me weren't in favor of that. I want to see an interventionist America. America is a superpower. It's got a moral duty to intervene. But to suggest that the US cavalry is about to march in and get rid of the murderous, fanatical ayatollahs who've been running Iran since 1989. I think that is totally irresponsible. He seems to me to be all over the place. Yeah. He's confusing us. He's confusing our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. He's confusing absolutely everybody, but he's making it worse because there is no quick fix. Yeah. Islamists in power will kill, and kill again in order to stay in power. Yeah. And, dropping a bomb on Tehran is simply going to kill Iranians. Yeah. It's not going to stop these fanatics. So he should stand back. Let nature take its course. Iran is being slowly strangled to death, that regime. Good, but it will take some time.
The economic sanctions and the like, that can help, but and again, it's terrible because these young people, I think they've been out in the streets because they thought that they were going to get that backup of some sort. Let's turn our attention, I suppose, things closer to home, but involving international affairs, and that's the Chinese the super embassy is going to be built really across the road. We're told we're going to get the go-ahead for that from the government, overruling the local Tower Hamlets Council, didn't give planning permission for it, just across the Thames, right next to the Tower of London. Basically, as it's been emerged now, the plans that have been emerged, that we're looking at a building that's just 1 metre from some of the absolutely vital communication cables to the city, crucial to our economy, to the running of our economy. But also these plans, and we've known this for a year or so, that actually, redacted plans where there's just huge spaces, massive, absolutely huge basement area. We have no idea what this is going to be used for. Even if what they say is going to be used for, we've no idea whether they'll actually do that. Why do you think that the Prime Minister is so gung-ho on going ahead and giving approval to this embassy, as we expect him to do? And do you think he is just Peking's poodle, as many are claiming?
Well, I don't think he's Peking's poodle, and I should say I'm a poodle lover. So I don't think he is the poodle, but I do think he's eyeing Chinese economic assistance, and I think that's his Achilles heel here. He does want to avoid doing anything that will stop the Chinese investing in Britain. In a way, what's happening here, the Royal Mint Court and the purchase of the Royal Mint Court in 1918 for 255 million quid, of course, a different government in 2019, 18, that shows the interest that the British have had in selling chunks of our real estate and our industry to the Chinese without thinking twice about the regime they were taking money from. I've seen an estimate of £37 billion invested by China in the UK over the past 17 years.
But they don't do it to benefit us, they do it to benefit themselves.
They do it to everything.
Same with trade deals. I mean, that's the key thing, isn't it? Is that Tony Blair is going to go on his visit, we expect, at the end of this month, and he wants a big trade deal. Rachel Reeves came back, I think, with £1 billion. I mean, that's money down the back of the sofa. That's an accounting error for the Chinese economy. But they're not going to do a deal that benefits Britain. They're going to do a deal that benefits China. And our lot are so bad at negotiating. That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely so. As the Greeks found out when they sold the port of Piraeus to the Chinese said, oh, we'll rebuild it.
Yeah.
Well, they did rebuild it, but every last nut and bolt was made in China.
Yeah, brought over Chinese workers to do it, is my guess.
Absolutely.
As well.
So it's madness. And indeed, I think that the idea that the Chinese should be able to convert Royal Mint Court into a super embassy, it would be the largest diplomatic mission for the Chinese anywhere on the continent of Europe. It is the mad side of reckless. However much, we need Chinese money to grow our economy, and I understand Sakir really does need to grow it. It is the most foolish thing you could do. You've already described the building with its secret chamber unearthed by the Telegraph. I suspect, I don't know, that somebody at MI5 leaked those unredacted plans to the Telegraph. 1 metre away from sensitive fibre optic cables. A lot of people, I used to ask my students, where is the cloud? And they always point up there. But actually, it's down there. It's the cables that carry the information. And as we know, what GCHQ does in Bude, you can easily lock onto those cables. It's not, not brilliant rocket science. You just lock into them, and you can listen to everything going up and down.
What could possibly be the risk, given that we just had a whole court case collapse over whether or not we do or we do not currently think of China as a hostile state? I mean, it is utterly mind-blowing this is going to go ahead. And again, there's plenty of other countries that have battles with China over these things, like Australia. And they don't cut off the trade. Everyone thinks, oh, well, they'll hurt us. They don't have a choice. Their economy is absolutely dependent on trade with the West. They're not going to cut off the trade with us.
You're absolutely right. And just very briefly, we've had the head of MI5, Sir Ken McCallum, say China is waging a sustained campaign of espionage against this country. We've had Lord Sedwell, former cabinet secretary, saying that China is clearly a threat to our national security. When that's said, yes, the Daily Telegraph reported that MI5 and MI6 said, oh, they could manage the threat. But again, Julia, as you've just pointed out, well, they can't manage the threat because there appears to be a very clear-cut case. I know the people involved denied it, but on the face of it, a clear-cut case of a couple of idiots in Parliament spying for China. That was the allegation.
That was the allegation.
The trial collapsed.
Yeah, exactly. Anthony, it's genuinely painful. It really is. It was like just like because we can laugh about various policy changes, but the key thing is we're talking about national security here. Professor Anthony Gies, I hope you'll come on again soon. Security and intelligence expert. Thank you very much. Owner of some very impressive bookshelves as well. I love a good bit of bookshelf action in a Zoom. Claire Pearsall, what do you make of this? Do you think it's going to go ahead?
I hate to say it, but I think he probably will capitulate.
I almost said Tony Blair there. Same thing. I'm genuine. I think Keir Starmer's going to agree and approve it, and I think they're going to end up U-turning on it. I think that's going to be U-turn number 16. We're on 13 now.
We should
a couple more to come. I think people are keeping lists. Look, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. And Digital ID, lots of your calls coming in. We'll get some more of them, I promise. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Up next, we're going to have the PMQs. We'll take that exchange between Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer. Claire Pearce is going to stay with her analysis, and we'll have Peter Cardwell in as well. Can't wait to get to more of your calls. Lots more top guests. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your Connect device, thank you very much indeed for your company. Still with me in the studio, former Conservative Government Advisor Claire Pissell. Delighted to be joined right now by fellow Talk presenter Peter Caldwell.
Hi, Julia.
A very good afternoon to you. The Prime Minister's already on his feet for PMQs. He's just made a very brief statement calling out the brutality in the Iranian regime. Oh, I bet Khomeini's really worried and upset right now.
Quaking in his boots.
I mean, this is almost as bad as having Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, calling you in if you're demanding the presence, summoning the presence of the Iranian ambassador to serve him some, I don't know, maybe there were stale biscuits. I don't know, that was the punishment, but that's all we're doing. But we'll go to PMQs when Kemi Badenoch steps up, because there's always one or two questions beforehand. What's she going to go on today, do you think?
She has to go on digital ID and a little bit of Iran, but definitely digital ID. Another U-turn from the Kylie of politics. Keir Starmer spinning around yet again.
There we go. Oh, now I've got an image of Keir Starmer in those little gold shorts, and someone's going to do that on AI.
You can't get it out of your head. You can't get it out of your head.
No, what have you done? I've got the music worm for the rest of the day. Get him out of the studio. Claire Pissell, you were nodding away that you thought, yeah, that was likely to be. I mean, this is about people think on the feet. Because I remember early on in PMQs with Kemi, she would be like talking about something that was in the news a day, a week earlier.
Yeah, she has got a lot better. She's tightened up the subjects that she talks about, and she can land those punches, and she knows full well that she needs to keep on an issue because he doesn't like it when you keep pressing the detail.
Exactly. The thing is, it's very interesting. I mean, we've seen some polling, 2 points down for, although they're still ahead in the polls for reform. A lot of people, in terms of focus groups, saying Kemi Badenoch is doing a good job now.
Well, certainly the YouGov poll, Conservatives at 20 percentage points higher than they've been since May. So this is perhaps they're coming back. Reform UK under pressure as well at 24 points. Only one poll though. We'll see what others say.
Although we're going to have any Tories left with all the defections to the.
But they're not sitting Tory MPs. These are former Conservative members.
Oh, I love the way she said that as a Conservative Party member. These are has-beens. Well, I mean, sure. I mean, there is an element, an awful lot of them. You're going, who? Do you know one of the media organisations they very foolishly tried to watch to keep abreast of what everyone else is doing. There's a whole list of all these Tories who'd gone over, and I'm like. I mean, who was it? I recognised two of them.
Oh, I knew the names, and I'd forgotten that they were part of our party to begin with when you looked down the list.
Meow.
I mean, this thing. But digital ID is definitely the big story. Again, this is it's just not just another U-turn. This is a policy where Tories and Reform have been making all the running, isn't it, Peter?
They have, and I think rightly so. But if you say it's not mandatory, then you say, what's the point? £1.8 billion is apparently needed from other government departments to fund it, asking for a reduction.
Absolutely. Well, Kemi Badenoch is just standing up. Let's hear what she has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I agree with the Prime Minister's comments on Iran? Today, Irfan Soltani faces execution for protesting in Iran, and I'm sure the whole House will be united in condemning this. Our thoughts are with him and his family and the brave protesters fighting for their freedom against an evil regime. Mr. Speaker, I know the Home Secretary will be making a statement today on the West Midlands Police. The first thing that she should be announcing is the sacking of the Chief Constable. And I thank the member for West Suffolk for relentlessly pushing this issue. Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the Prime Minister's latest U-turn? I feel like I say that every week. Mandatory digital ID was a rubbish policy, and we on this side of the House are glad to see the back of it. But yesterday, the Health Secretary said the Prime Minister's New Year's resolution should be, and I quote, to try to get it right first. To try to get it right first time. Yes, you did say that. You did say that. My question is, does he agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm determined to make it harder for people to work illegally in this country, and that's why there will be checks, they will be digital, and they will be mandatory. And I'll tell her what this government is doing, whether on planning, child poverty, employment rights, investing in our NHS. We're taking the right choices for Britain, and they oppose every single one of them. And she talks about U-turns and consistency. From the party that used to recognise the challenge of climate change, and now they run from it, who promised to cut immigration, but then lost control of it, who once took great pride in our diversity, now they talk of deporting our neighbours to achieve cultural coherence. And Mr. Speaker, on consistency, don't get me started on 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed.
A lot of waffle, Mr. Speaker, but it's still a U-turn. The member for Hull East has said, so interesting, Mr. Speaker, Labour MPs must think very carefully before defending policy decisions publicly. He said, and I quote, "This stuff leaves us looking really stupid." I'm sorry to tell him, but Labour MPs have been looking stupid for a long time. But let's look, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's look at some other things the Prime Minister didn't get right first time, starting with the family farms tax. Some farmers were so terrified they sold their farms last year only for the Prime Minister to U-turn 2 days before Christmas. Will he apologise for the misery he's caused countless farmers?
Mr. Speaker, the principle we put in place on inheritance tax is the right one. We listened, we made an astrum. But what we're doing is turning the country around. Yes, we've changed the country. We've changed the failed approach of the last Tory government. They crashed the economy and sent mortgage rates through the roof. They left millions stuck on NHS waiting lists. They presided over the worst Parliament for living standards on record. Now we're turning that around. We're changing that. Inflation and interest rates are coming down. Waiting lists are coming down. Wages are up more in the first year of a Labour government than 10 years of the Tory government. But I understand, Mr. Speaker, that she's taking advice on change. She had Nadeem Zahawi in to ask his advice how to change and how to save her party. Please don't tell me she listened to his accountant. The next day after the advice, he jumped ship to reform, the 23rd former Tory MP to do so. I don't know which is more pitiful, the flood of former Tory MPs deserting her sinking ship, or the Reform Party so desperate to launder any old failed Tory politician.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister doesn't need to worry about me. I'm all right. I didn't hear an apology. I didn't hear an apology to the farmers. Has he even apologised to the member for Penrith, who stood up for farmers only to have the whip removed? This Prime Minister treats his MPs so badly, they follow his lead, and he hangs them out to dry every time. Let's turn to another area the Prime Minister has got wrong. His budget doubled business rates for thousands of pubs. So can the Prime Minister tell us, is there going to be any change to his business rates policy?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're working with the sector to ensure that they get the support that they need. I have to say, the Leader of the Opposition's newfound concern for pubs will come as a surprise to anyone who remembers the 7,000 pubs that were closed under the Tories. And as Business Secretary, she didn't say a word about it. So we support business. We also support workers, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we passed our Employment Rights Act. And on Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Business Secretary and I went to Croydon to discuss our Employment Rights Act with workers there. They were very keen on the paternity rights and the maternity rights, which I know the Leader of the Opposition opposes. And whilst we were there at IKEA, they showed me their new prototype, the IKEA Shadow Cabinet. The trouble is, nobody wants to buy it. It's mainly constructed of old dead wood. And every time you lose a nut, it defects to reform.
Mr. Speaker, he didn't answer the question about business rates. It sounds like he doesn't know what his policy is. And this has been a farce from start to finish. On Monday, the business secretary said the Chancellor did not even realise the impact of her business rates policy. No surprise there. But yesterday, the tax office said that they did tell the government what the impact would be. So can the Prime Minister be clear? Did he understand the impact of his own policy on pubs?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're working with this sector. She hasn't explained why she said nothing about the 7,000 pubs that closed on her watch. We're doing other things on the cost of living to help people, to make sure they can get out, to spend money in pubs and hospitality, boosting the minimum wage. What did they do? They opposed it. Freezing rail fares and prescription charges. What did they do? They opposed it. £150 off energy bills. What did they do? They opposed it. She said nothing when pubs were closing, and she opposes every measure now. And she said a moment ago, I'm all right. She clearly didn't listen to the advice of Nadeem Zahawi, because what he told her, he's now made fun of it. He told her that they failed on mass migration, they failed on our armed forces, and he told her that she's leading, his words, a defunct brand the nation can no longer trust. No wonder he's joined the Tory migration to reform. Mr. Speaker, it's the second Boris wave.
Mr. Speaker, I asked him if he understood the impact of his own policy. He didn't say yes. The reason he U-turns all the time is because he is clueless. He is blowing around like a plastic bag in the wind, no sense of direction whatsoever. And let's be clear, Mr. Speaker, this mess goes beyond pubs. The whole of the hospitality industry, cafes, hotels, restaurants, they're all being clobbered by Labour's tax hikes. There is an answer to this. Conservatives would abolish business rates for small businesses on the high street. Mr. Speaker, yes, they're all chuntering. He's already agreeing with us on family farms tax. He's already agreeing with us on digital ID. Why doesn't he make it a hat trick and abolish business rates for the high street?
Mr. Speaker, they crashed the economy, and now they want to give lectures. She's wondering why nobody's listening to them. Nobody is ever going to listen to them on the economy ever again. Mr. Speaker, in 18 months, because of the decisions we've made, inflation is falling, and the Bank of England say it's coming back down to target. We've had 6 interest rate cuts in a row. Wages are up more in the first year of a Labour government than under the first 10 years of their government, and we beat the forecasts on growth for 2025. We're turning this country around after the appalling mess that they left it in.
He says no one's going to listen to us. Who's going to listen to him? The winter fuel allowance, U-turn. Waspy women, U-turn. The 2-child benefit cap, U-turn. Grooming gangs inquiry, U-turn. The family farms tax, U-turn. Digital ID, U-turn. Jury trials? U-turn. We hope so. We hope so. I think that's going to be the next one, Mr. Speaker. Week after week, these poor people sitting behind him have to defend the indefensible, only for him to U-turn a few days later. Mr. Speaker, one of his cabinet ministers told a journalist that what's happening at the moment is extraordinarily bad. Another said we've gone through a catastrophic series of missteps. Yet another minister said, we are so unpopular at the moment, I've come to the conclusion it's worth rolling the dice on a new leader. They're right, aren't they?
Mr. Speaker, here's the difference. I changed my party, and that's why we stand here with a majority Labour government. She sits there with her party that lost 2/3 of their MPs at the last election, and she's losing more every week. They're queuing up to join the member of Clacton's laundry service for disgraced Tory politicians. Meanwhile, inflation is down, wages are up, and waiting lists are down. Labour's turning the corner and changing this country for the better.
Right, well, let's leave the Commons right now. That was a pretty heated exchange between Kemi Badenoch there and the Prime Minister, continuing to take more questions, of course, because she's leading the opposition. Her her full 6 questions there. We were discussing earlier, were we not, whether with Claire Pearsall and Peter Carboy joining me in the studio, what we thought Kemi Badenoch would go on. Of course, she gave her thoughts on the possible execution today of the Iranian protester, the first one. Mentioned, of course, the Home Secretary making that statement today about the Maccabi Tel Aviv police constable and saying he should be sacked. But then get straight into digital ID. But actually, a lot of it ended up being about pubs. But really, Peter Carboy, a lot of it was just focused on you're an incompetent useless government. She said, was it blowing around like a plastic bag in the wind? She said in one of those questions. And U-turn after U-turn. There was kind of a lot of pity for backbench MPs, and frankly a rather miserable looking front bench from Labour as well. And I thought rather desperate Keir Starmer with some of his answers, such as they were answers.
I agree with all of that. I also think that using the words of others in his party against Keir Starmer, whether it's Wes Streeting, whether it's Carl Turner, for example, the backbencher who's very annoyed about jury trials, whoever it is, whatever they're saying about Keir Starmer, using the words back at him, annoying him, putting him in the back foot, and as you say, the pity for the people behind him.
And he gets very touchy. Well,
yes.
It's interesting. In her first question, she was talking about the U-turn on digital ID and quoting the Health Secretary. Often they refer to members by their constituency. It's the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, who was on the front bench, wasn't he? And a quote that he'd said, our New Year's resolution should be to get it right the first time instead of constantly U-turning on policies. He was shouting, saying...
He's saying that's not what I said. Now, she technically, he's right in that she said that's what he said about the Prime Minister. He said we in general, but there's absolutely no doubt that's what Wes Streeting was talking about. The person who's done the U-turns is Keir Starmer. He's changed his mind, and we're waiting for another one, as she said, on pubs and perhaps restaurants and cafes as well.
And also jury trial, I think. What did you make of generally the performance of both participants there in that duel?
Kemi Badenoch was much better. She didn't get rattled. She went after the right things, in my opinion.
She's got a swagger about her, hasn't she?
She does have a swagger about her. She has an air of confidence that we haven't seen in a long time in a Conservative leader. And the Prime Minister just got really, really rattled. He tried to put it back by saying, these are all the things that you didn't do, and 14 years of, failure from the Conservative
People
Party.
are just bored with that now. He's
Absolutely.
been in office 18 months.
And it's almost as if the last 18 months hasn't happened to him, because the decisions that his government have taken have done so badly, they've either had to U-turn, get rid of them, or it's just costing people more money. So his own party looked absolutely thunderous. When he did a long shot of the chamber, you could see some really unhappy backbench.
Yeah, they are unhappy. And again, they wheeled out, they make these statements, or they vote in Parliament, and then it's all wheeled back again. They look like idiots. And they do. They look like idiots because they'll be arguing about it at the local constituents. One of the things I've really found, quite apart, and I'm sure you at home will have noticed this as well. The abject lack of any pretence of even giving an answer.
Any answer whatsoever.
Look, he's no worse than any former Prime Minister. They're all just as bad on these things. In fact, one of the killer things to do as a Prime Minister is to give a yes. Or no,
and then sit down.
And it always throws the questioner massively. They've got their little game going. But the abject, not even pretence of answering. But the worst thing to me was these awful jokes. I don't know who's writing his gags, but please, for the love of God, stop. Yeah. And his first response, it was just ill. He was talking about Tories claiming us for lots of U-turns, lots of changes. But I love, Claire, your response to this. But he was critical of the Tory positions. 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8, and it was a joke at the time. He goes, you've had more positions than the Kama Sutra. Again, that's just a really tacky gag. No wonder they're knackered and left the country screwed. That's unbelievably... I'm sorry, that's unbecoming. You're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And left the... I was in the House of Commons. I thought that was just really tacky.
Did somebody give him a joke book from the 1980s for Christmas? Yeah. And he's gone through it and highlighted the bits that he'd like to use. It probably sounded really good in his office in Number 10 with his aides. They probably sniggered and thought it was quite cheeky. But I don't want the Prime Minister of the country of any political persuasion to come out with jokes like that. I'm sorry, that's just wrong.
It's just generally tacky, wasn't it?
He can't sell a joke either.
No, he's terrible
so it falls
about
flat.
it.
Some prime ministers could get away with it, not him. Don't want to hear it. Answer the question.
There was, he's talking about, the final one about Nigel, basically Nigel Farage's laundry service for disgraced politicians, Nadeem Zahawi, because he knows that's bad for the Tories, and actually it's not worked out that well for Reform either. But he talked about Nadeem Zahawi being the second Boris wave. That wasn't a bad gag, but what do you make of those? His attempts to sort of give us sort of an off-the-cuff, he's so blatantly obviously reading these things, off-the-cuff joke.
Well, I totally agree with Claire. I think they're just tacky. I don't see the point of them. He can't tell a joke, and you've got to play to your strengths. And one of Kemi Badenoch's strengths is that she asked a really good question, which I think might slightly be lost in the coverage, where she says, was the Prime Minister aware of what the Treasury knew when it came to business rates?
Because this is about the fact that the business rates, pubs were promised help in the budget. They didn't get help. Things got worse for them when you saw the small print. And then it was like, well, Rachel Reeves didn't realise. Now it's emerged that she did know. And now Kemi was asking, but did the Prime Minister know?
And there are two of these big things that have emerged in the last week. One is that, and we had a senior person, Officer of Budgetary Responsibility, saying to Parliament yesterday that the manifesto of this government has not been implemented anything like it said it would. The Office for
There wasn't much detail in it.
But even that detail hasn't happened. Another senior official saying, actually, with the business rates, the Treasury did know. Also, we've got £28 billion black hole when it comes to the defence budget. So it's not just incompetence, it's not just U-turns, it's actually, do you even know what's going on in your own government? Keir Starmer going, oh, hold on, there's £28 billion black hole before Christmas. Hold on a second. You're the Prime Minister. How do you not know this for 18 months?
Yeah, meanwhile, more doubling down on spending on net zero. We've just had some, there's the auction for, it's a darn complicated issue. Can't get into it in just a few minutes, but basically we're just guaranteed we're going to be spending a heck of a lot more on energy, which of course you cannot have a growing economy without cheap and abundant, reliable energy. Full stop. End of. Nothing to discuss.
I completely agree with that. All the talk of getting rid of diesel out of the pumps by 2030 is just
that was the front page of the Sun yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
It's not going to because it's not ban. It's not even a ban on diesel cars being driven. It's sales of new ones. Everyone I know has got a diesel car, including us. We'll make sure we go out and get a car just before then, and the resale value of those is going to go sky high because people will still want them. It's madness. I mean, was there anything good to say about the Prime Minister's performance, Claire? Like, you're a Conservative. We always try and talk about this in a politically neutral way, like give our honest appraisal. I'll say if I think Kemi didn't do a good one, or I'll say if I thought the Prime Minister did a good one. I mean, I thought that was just he looked very much on the back foot, say awful gags, didn't answer any questions. I think he looked very lonely. Prime Minister with all those backbenchers about it, he looked like they were literally sitting there going, we're not with him. You fight this battle on your own, mate. Was there anything he did that was any half good there in that performance?
I think his opening statement about the Iranian protests and offering solidarity with them was probably about the only thing I can find
where?
to say.
What?
I mean, he did that before.
Let me just change my Twitter bio and put in a flag. You know what I mean? That doesn't change anything.
I'm scraping a low barrel here to try and find something to say because everybody accuses me of just being downright rude about him.
Okay.
For a reason.
Well, I think the big event today is going to be the Home Secretary's statement, Shabana Mahmood's statement on this Maccabi Tel Aviv football fan ban. And the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, saying, look, she's got to announce the sacking of this chief constable, West Midlands Police. She can't actually sack him herself, though, can she?
She can withdraw her support for him, but the Times reporting in the last few minutes actually that the Craig Guilford, the chief constable, is digging in and wants due process. Well, actually, maybe if he
due process, have you given that to the fans?
Well, exactly. If he'd given that to the fans and not lied to Parliament, so I think his position is totally untenable. The only person who can actually sack him is the Police and Crime Commissioner, who's been incredibly silent over the past number of weeks.
But you also appointed the chief constable.
Yes, and who was on the board?
Sorry, why do we just? Yeah.
Who was on the board? Who appointed him? Well, one of the imams from the local mosque.
Yeah.
And in that mosque, not that imam, but in that local mosque, there was a preacher who said that women can be beaten by their husbands as a last resort. I don't want these people.
Well, if they go out without their husband's permission, they deserve to be beaten. Seriously, Peter.
I don't want those people anywhere near the appointment of a chief constable, or anywhere near our country. Actually,
listen, we know how things work in this country. I think that the Home Secretary or the chief constable, they should go to the imams in the local mosque in Birmingham and ask, what they think and get their permission of whether or not this guy should be sacked.
You're being sarcastic, but that's not outside the realms of possibility.
I'm not. That's how things work in Birmingham, we're told now. But anyway, Peter Caldwell, when are you next on air?
4 o'clock today.
4 o'clock, say, on Drive today. Look forward to that. Claire Pearsall is going to be locked in the studio. She's not allowed to leave. Just one person out.
One in, one out.
One in, one out, yeah. And we're going to get to your calls up next. 0344 499 1000 on any topics we've been talking about. Digital ID, U-turns, the Maccabee Tel Aviv statement we're going to get from the House of Commons. We want to talk about PMQs. Get in touch. We want to hear your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:28 is the time. Lots more to talk about on the show before 1 o'clock, including we're going to be talking to an anti-war campaigner about basically saying, well, we shouldn't be getting involved in what is going on in Iran. We're also going to talk to the brilliant Chris Snowdon from the Institute of Economic Affairs about Labour's latest nanny stent madness, because again, treading lightly on our lives, as a caller pointed out, is what he promised, but actually the latest is a zero alcohol ban for under 18s. But it's zero alcohol. No, it's a gateway drug. It's a gateway. If you start drinking zero alcohol lager, then you'll have full alcohol lager when you're 18. I mean, have these people met any teenagers? I mean, you and I chuckling away with our teenagers. Good God. Anyway, there we are. Madness. Let's go to your calls first. 0344 499 1000. Dave is on the line in London. Dave, you want to talk about this Maccabee Tel Aviv story and the chief constable, Kemi Badenoch's calling for him to be sacked today. Will we get that report and statement from Shabana Mahmood? What do you make of it all?
Yeah, hi Julia. Another day in the madhouse.
Yep. Are you talking about this office or politics? It could go either way, that one.
Well, nice to see the Prime Minister engaging in banter and gags, especially dual innuendo ones. Because if he were in a pub, I'm not sure he's allowed in a pub, but if he was in a pub, I think he might be called up on that by the bar staff.
Well, they wanted they wanted to bring in a law. They're still trying to, aren't they? To basically, have pub landlords policing what people say in pubs. I know there are a lot of workplaces we're making a joke about, everyone's screwed and the Kama Sutra. You'd be in HR.
Yeah, or he could be in Sadiq Khan's next mate video, although he hasn't got any mates, so he might not get in there. But anyway, on the Maccabee thing.
Yeah.
It baffles me. So I'm a police officer. I'm sitting in Birmingham, and I don't mind the fact he Googled, Maccabee games, and up came the fake West Ham game. I'm happy with that. But why didn't he just phone up West Ham police and go, hello, it's BC Plod here from Birmingham. Have West Ham had any scraps with Maccabee these days? Because the police.
And what happened? Yeah. But again, they didn't Google. When you Google, when it's AI, and they've actually the Westminster Chief Constable, who is now apparently digging in and refusing to go. He's not going to fall into sword. He's going to make life hard to get rid of him. He's going to go eventually. So he's just got less class than you could possibly imagine. Or he thinks he's got his Islamist extremist mates who are going to back him. I mean, who knows? lives. But you know, he's apologised for using AI, for literally using evidence against the fans made up by AI.
Yeah, and again, just call. He could have even just called a West Ham fan. I mean, I know hundreds of football fans from all types. I think if I just phoned up today, Steve.
Yeah, but double check the fixture list.
Tel Aviv recently. You say, no, mate, we haven't been in Europe for 4 years, so we couldn't have done.
Yeah. But the thing is, with all of these stories about this case, and there's been a story virtually every day for about 2 weeks now. I mean, for months it's gone going. More and more emerges, and it just shows not just an abject lack of competence from the police, the West Midlands, but also blatant the lies. I mean, it's corruption. When you lie and then you cover up about the lie, that's corruption in the police. But I mean, I could not trust a single thing that a senior police officer said in this force.
Well, I actually watched quite a big clip of that inquiry, and I have to say, looking across the bench of the 4 or 5 of them, and the things they were coming out with, it felt like an episode of On the Buses from the 1970s.
The Home Affairs Select Committee, and they were given a soft ride as well, and they really dug themselves deeper in. Yeah,
they spent more time educating us on what a process is, which we all know about a process. Yeah. But they actually, when they kept saying, asking them a direct question, they just go off on process again. It really is bizarre, and it does make me despair.
But it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery why no policing gets done, and they make so many mistakes when that's the calibre of the people that are at the top echelons. Really appreciate your call, Dave. Thank you very much indeed. You say this is basic stuff, basic PC plot stuff. Let's go to Mark, who's in Manchester. Mark, you wanted to talk about Kemi's performance in PMQs. Were you happy with it or unhappy with it? What do you make of it?
I think it's ordinary. I think her performance, I don't think she's a good advocate for the Conservatives. I mean, she's been given endless ammunition from Labour at the minute. It's not a difficult job to come up with these particular arguments.
Right.
But I just don't see the intonation. I don't see there's nothing there backing it up. And I think in the heat of an election, I just don't think. I mean, I'm a natural Conservative voter.
Yep.
I haven't always voted Conservatives, but I was a business owner and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you just look at their record, you could just tear them to shreds. You, me, anybody. The prison system that they left. The
everything.
System that they left. The loans during COVID that they gave away. I mean, it's just not what a business party would do.
But they made loads of mistakes. Her argument is
loads.
I mean, loads. I don't think I didn't tear them apart as much of it as I could. But their argument is I wasn't leader and things have changed now. That's her argument. Now, do you think though, by the time we get to another election, okay, we've got local elections this year and elections in Scotland and Wales, but actually the Labour Party and Keir Starmer did that pink is harping on about it. At the end of the day, it's 18 months ago and people are going, what are you doing now? We know the past. We booted them out because they were rubbish. What are you doing now? At the end of the day, you're basically saying, aren't you, she's okay, but she's only looking good because Labour is so bad. But I don't think the next election is going to be fought on the Tory record last time round.
No, I agree. But I think if they had any integrity at all, a shred of integrity, they tried umpteen different leaders last time. They had 14 years. They left us with more debt than when they came in for. As I say, that their performance during COVID was abject.
It would have been worse under Labour. It would have been worse. They were awful, but it would have been worse.
That's no I think they should disband. I think they should just disband and they should all go over to Nigel Farage. I think it's the only chance. Unless they have someone that's messianic, which I don't see, I don't think they can come back because that argument is not okay. You say it's 18 months, but in 5 years' time, people can still turn around. I'll still remember and say you had 14 yees.
Yeah, very harsh words, but I think a lot of people do feel that way. Mark, thank you very much for that. I'm going to allow Claire a response because she was going no in the corner. What do you say to that?
I think this is the rebuilding of the Conservative Party, and the problem that you have is that PMQs is a snapshot of Punch and Judy politics. And Kemi is actually making the Prime Minister admit how badly he's doing. Okay. So that's a fair play to her.
We've given her a right of reply there. Right now, time is now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at the 4-star Intercontinental Hotel and £2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen to how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
You do not want to miss out on that trip of a lifetime. Very good luck. We'll take a quick break, and up next we are going to be talking about whether or not Britain should be doing something to help the Iranian protesters. We're going to be talking to an anti-war campaigner who says, no, we shouldn't get involved. That's up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 12:38 is the time. Let's talk right now a bit more about what is going on in Iran. Donald Trump has said help is coming, but what help can he give and what help will he give and when we've seen protesters out on the streets, partly, we think, because Donald Trump said that if the mullahs did start machine gunning people down in the streets, as they've previously done before, the action would be taken by the United States. And yet we've seen, well, we don't know exactly for sure, but somewhere between 2,000, some of the top estimates, 20,000 people having been killed. And of course, today we've got the prospect of the execution of the very first arrested protester, 26-year-old shopkeeper Irfan Soltani, due to be hanged today. Now, Donald Trump saying help is coming. He's warning the Ayatollah not to act. But what's he actually going to do? And should Britain be helping? Well, let's talk to Mick Napier about this. He's an activist and anti-war campaigner. He's also co-founder of the Scottish Palestine Solidarity Campaign. Good afternoon to you, Mick. I think you might be on mute. I can't hear you, my love. Mick, hello there. Hello, can you hear us? I think he was trying to speak, but Hello, Mick, I think we can hear you now.
Yeah, I spoke to your colleague a moment ago.
Oh, right, there we go. We got you. Right, lovely. So, Mick, do you think that Donald Trump should act, and do you think Britain should also act to help these protesters?
Well, Donald Trump's acting a lot these days. He's threatening to bomb about 10 countries the last time I checked. Does anyone know the last time Britain and America intervened to get regime change in Iran? It was an utter catastrophe. It was 1953, a democratically elected secular government that was overthrown by the Brits in order, very clearly, just like Donald Trump speaks today, not on humanitarian grounds claimed, but to get control of the oil. Mm-hmm. That sets in train the whole monstrous development until today. Now, the people in Iran are suffering terrible inflation, 40, 50% possibly, and that's a design. That's by design. When Trump pulled out of the JCPOA the first time he was here, after it had been negotiated with America, the EU, Britain, Germany, and so on, Trump pulled out of it and then began to ratchet up sanctions.
Okay, yeah, but we know there are deliberately sanctions to impoverish the Iranian regime. So the idea is that they can't fund their own terror crowd around the Middle East and build nuclear weapons. We know that. You talked about regime change in 70 years ago, basically. Yeah. I don't want to go through all the history. I want to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Should Donald Trump and/or Britain help the Iranian protesters today?
Well, if you're going to hire a babysitter, you don't hire somebody who's got a terrible record of child abuse. If you're talking about Britain intervening, Britain has been intervening consistently up until the present day. We negotiated the JCPOA. Britain agreed to that, and pulling out and starting to ratchet up sanctions.
This is to explain what the JCPOA is to people, just because this is about nuclear. It's about weaponry, nuclear, and also about ability to actually buy stuff from abroad and easing the sanctions, isn't it?
Negotiated as broadly as it could possibly be.
So
US
rather than again keeping on coming back to that, are you saying yes or no? Should Britain and or America, well, America is crucially the country involved, should they do anything? Yes or no? I don't know why you're finding it difficult to answer this question directly.
They should back off. The Iranian people are fighting because they're suffering. They're suffering inflation. They're suffering their living standards falling. And the danger is that when they challenge their own regime, in comes the Americans and the British to take advantage of it because they want control of Iranian oil. This has been the consistent
history.
It's
all about the oil. Okay.
Absolutely.
I've no doubt at all. There are plenty of people who've got interested, whether it's Venezuela or any country, they're interested in the oil. Here's the key thing there, though. If Donald Trump, as he did, said, look, protest on the streets, and if the Ayatollah and the mullahs send out the IRGC to start shooting people, we will help you. Those young people, and a lot of them are young people wanting basic freedoms, freedoms we live with right now, that they thought they were having that protection, that umbrella of protection from the West. Is there not a moral duty, now that promise has been made, that Donald Trump acts?
Is this Groundhog Day? The Americans and the Brits have just helped in the massacre of maybe 100,000 people in Gaza.
Oh, for goodness sake.
It's a genocide.
It's not a genocide.
Do we want
Get
Fred
a dictionary,
West?
It's not a genocide.
Do we want Fred West as a social worker? Do we want somebody with that record to claim to be acting benignly in the interests of the Iranian people? It's preposterous, and it demands on the most intense amnesia.
Well, you don't actually have to like Donald Trump or agree with his politics or think he's doing it for the right reason if him doing it would save the lives of tens of thousands of young Iranians who want the same freedoms that you and I currently enjoy in this country.
Look, you don't have to be a fan of the Iranian government to say this is a matter for Iranian people to sort out by themselves. They've proven themselves because whoever fights wins the prize, and the Iranian people have a prize.
Hold on a minute, I'm very confused. Why is this a matter for the Iranian people to sort out for themselves? But when it comes to Gaza, the Palestinians, then it's very much a matter that we should get involved in and do what you would say would be the right thing for them, and that we should get involved. We should, not do deals, not sell weapons, not help the Israelis, etc., etc. Why in one case you're quite happy to say, yeah, leave them to themselves, carry on shooting, not really my problem, but with another group of people, we should absolutely take action and take responsibility? What's the difference?
That's absolute nonsense. We call upon Britain to stop sending arms to Israel, for the RAF to stop supplying intelligence to the Israelis. We call upon Britain not to intervene, because Britain's intervention in Palestine, for God's sake, is obviously a catastrophe.
There isn't actually a place called Palestine, no matter anyone. People can try and recognise that, but there isn't.
What the hell are you talking about? There's no place like Palestine.
No, so there isn't a country of Palestine.
It's been a name for that area for 3,000 years.
No, it hasn't. That's not true. I mean, that's just not true. So,
really?
I mean, no, I'm so sorry for actually knowing facts, but Nick, that's not true.
Well, in that case, start off with the first fact. Palestine was a key part of the Ottoman Empire. It was autonomous. European colonists came and dispossessed the native people. And you're now saying the people who organised that dispossession can play a benign role in Iran?
When you say that you want the West, Britain, other countries to get out of Palestine, that's not quite consistent with what a lot of activists, pro-Palestinian activists and Palestine solidarity campaigns have been about. Actually, they've actually wanted a lot of help for the people of Palestine. Huge sums of money from the UN. Who do you think funds the UN? It's Western nations who provide most of that funding that goes to UNRWA, used to go to UNRWA and others. You want the West involved when it's a campaign you support.
It's simply not true. You can continue to assert that as much as you want, but the key demand of Palestine solidarity campaigners has been to end the complicity, not for Britain to do something, but to stop doing what it's doing.
Why have there been all these demands?
When you see a contradiction, there is absolutely none.
Why have there been all these demands then? Maybe not from you specifically, but certainly other people who work closely with Palestine solidarity campaigns in the UK, where everyone is saying the Prime Minister must act. The Prime Minister must act to save lives. Not act. Act.
Is this what passes for journalism? The demand is that the British government stop acting in the malign fashion it has been, and which it has always done, by the way, in Iran as well. The Iranian people know how to deal with their regime.
No, they don't. Well, clearly they don't, because young women get executed for taking their headscarf off.
First of all, when they rebelled in 2022, they secured a modest victory. The Iranian government rode back on the hijab issue, which was very important for a lot of them.
Vaguely.
Iranians don't need the white savior complex from yourself.
Here we go.
Especially when every single intervention in Iran has been maligned from the West. Look, do you remember in the neighbouring country, Madeleine Albright, on the issue of sanctions? She was asked if sanctions had killed 500,000 people, was it a price worth paying? She said yes. Sanctions are a brutal weapon to smash people's lives. And it's not, as you introduced, by saying in order to punish the Iranian regime. It's collective punishment.
It's about undermining a regime that is a danger to the Middle East, danger to its own people, and a danger to the West, because, of course, just one second. The Iranian regime has been funding the likes of Hezbollah, the Houthis, small matter, the Hamas regime that has been blighting the lives of the people of Gaza.
God.
Oh, I'd love to hear a response to that.
Colonial trope. Every time people fight back against their dispossession. How many times has Israel invaded Lebanon? The Lebanese resistance grew out of the experience of Israeli occupation.
Really,
there used to be no Hezbollah, by the way. It grew out of Israeli occupation.
It's all Israel's fault. It's always the Jews' fault, isn't it?
No, it's not all Israel's fault, but it's certainly massively the fault of a genocidal regime.
Genocidal regime.
Not my opinion. The ICJ,
was it Israel who attacked Lebanon and Hezbollah on October the 8th, 2022? Or was it the other way around?
Of course,
it
all started in October 2022. Not 70 years of ethnic cleansing, not mass sequential.
I always find this fascinating, the ethnic cleansing thing. Are you aware that when Israel came into existence, by the way, with the agreement of the United Nations, which people on your side of the argument constantly seem to think is the fount of all good knowledge. Nick. But are you aware that Jews were expelled from every Gulf state en masse in their hundreds of thousands and expelled to Israel? No Jews were allowed to stay in any of those Arab states. Israel, 1% of that part of the world, and that's the only bit of land they've got. But you don't even want them to have that, do you?
Have I got the wrong number? Am I speaking to the Israeli embassy?
There we go.
Listen, that's absolute
nonsense. Got me 7,000 shekels for that, Nick.
Absolute
got me
nonsense.
7,000 shekels. Can I clarify? Is it shekels, pounds, or dollars? Because I'd rather have that money in pounds because it's worth more.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about politics, not money. You're bringing in strange ideas. Look, this idea that the Arab Jews, because that's who they were expelled from every Arab country.
Idea.
First of all, survivors of that pointed out that Mossad played a role in getting Jews out of Arab countries to go.
They didn't play a role. They were expelled. That was part of the basically exchange.
The corrupt Iraqi regime, which Britain installed, cooperated with the Zionists in order to expel Jews from Iraq. Yes.
No, every country in the Middle East.
But the Zion... No.
Yes. I mean, yes. Yes.
Excuse me, you were interviewing me. Give me a chance to say something.
Well, not when you say things that are factually incorrect.
Well, let me just say, the Zionist underground...
There we go.
People who were part of that... What do you mean? There was a Zionist underground.
Carry on.
Here we go.
But I've got to go to a break soon, so I'll let you finish. But you've got to go to a break.
There was a Zionist underground in Iraq, and people who were part of it later described how they had set off bombs in Jewish cultural centres in Baghdad in order to get Jews.
Right, we're going to. I'm going to have to leave it there because we are massively over time, Nick. We talked a bit longer about PMQ, so we didn't get as much time with you. I hope you come on back again. But you know, seriously, get out of that rabbit hole. Genuinely scary. 12:51 is the time. Up next, we're going to be talking about the latest nanny state madness with Chris Snowdon from the IEA. This is Talk.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. Wow, just wow. Claire Pearsall is still with me. I always think, oh God, I wish I had an hour to have this conversation. Yeah. But a lot of the time, you're having conversations about anything that involves Israel. Like it's always because of the Jews. They say it's Israel. They mean because I'm sorry, they do. But it's just amazing just how much absolute nonsense gets talked. Just terrifyingly so.
And you're in the wrong for not believing in the subjects that they believe in, that they've researched and they've looked it up and we don't know.
Someone said it on the internet.
Absolutely. And they bandy the word genocide around like nobody's business. And I find it frightening. And I think, am I on a different planet to these individuals?
I don't want to be on the same planet as these people, but there we are. No. Let's I don't want to be on the same planet with this nanny state government either. As one of our callers so rightly pointed out earlier in the show, Keir Starmer, when he arrived at number 10, he said he was going to wanted the government to tread more lightly on our lives. And she said, well, is he wearing concrete boots? Well, Chris Snowdon joins us now. He's head of lifestyle economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs, the free market think tank, to discuss the latest concrete boots stamping on our lives. This is Labour considering, that means they're going to do it and then U-turn it. Labour is considering banning the sale of zero alcohol drinks to under 18s. Blows my mind. I thought I'd misread that when I first saw the story. But the reason why, apparently, non-alcoholic drinks for under 18s are a gateway to alcoholic drinks. Chris, make it make sense.
I can't really. I think this is a solution looking for a problem. I don't believe that these drinks are a gateway. The gateway stuff is really rhetoric taken from the war on drugs, used to try and justify banning things that can't be justified on their own terms. I mean, there isn't a problem here. It seems to me this is kind of continuity Rishi Sunak. It's the kind of thing he might do for no particular reason at the fag end of 14 years of government. This is a government still only 18 months in, already looking for daft things to ban.
Absolutely. It is extraordinary. I mean, it's just, what the idea is, I suppose, well, you give them a Coca-Cola or an orangeade, that's okay. But if it's a drink that's kind of pretending to be an alcoholic drink but isn't alcoholic, like wine or beer, then that somehow will lead those kids into drinking. I mean, for a start, I mean, most kids from about 16 onwards are definitely drinking and probably in a pub with their fake ID. It's only £53 for 2 fake IDs in North London, just in case anyone is wondering what the market is. But I mean, do they know any, real people, particularly teenagers?
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I think there are 2 things about this. Firstly, non-alcoholic beer has been around for decades and it never seems to have been used as a so-called gateway to something that the vast majority of people will be doing anyway, sooner or later. And certainly people, when they're young, they have to kind of overcome their natural aversion to the taste of alcohol.
This is true.
And it's not like they like the taste but want to do without the alcohol. It's the opposite. You get over that you acquire the taste for beer and wine, which you don't naturally like, because you want to get the benefits of alcohol. You don't do it the other way around. So I don't see why any child would be interested in drinking something that they don't like the taste of if it hasn't got the ingredient in it that is why people drink it. You know, I can see why people who have already acquired that taste and want to cut down for dry January.
I'm driving home. I'm on a bit of a health kick. You know, I've got to do some work later, but I want to feel like I'm drinking a pint. I mean, and actually, those non-alcoholic beers have massively improved in recent years. Now, this is, as you say, it's a solution looking for a problem. They probably will bring it in. They'll bring it in at some point, and then of course they'll have to U-turn on it, won't they?
Very likely, yes. Based on, I think we're up to 13 U-turns, are we now? I mean, I don't mind them U-turning on bad ideas. I'm quite happy to congratulate them for U-turning on digital ID and farmers' tax and all this kind of stuff. Just have a bit of a think about it earlier in the process, lads, would be my advice.
Even Wes Street in the Health Secretary apparently said this, let's get it right the first time. What do you think, just finally, what do you think the next U-turn's going to be?
Probably something to do with climate change, gas boilers, electric cars, something like that.
Oh, yeah, because, well, they don't survive contact with reality, any of those policies, do they? Chris Snowdon, Head of Lifestyle Economics at the IEA. Kepis, I mean, this, genuinely, I read the headline, I thought, I must have misread that.
I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Do you know what I think the worst gateway for youngsters? Tiramisu. I got ID'd on the checkouts in Waitrose for buying tiramisu. I do a couple of desserts, I have to say, and I always have to say to people, are you driving home? You probably shouldn't have this. Do you know one of the things I make? Negroni jelly. Yes, please.
It's as good as it sounds. Ian Collins is here.
Especially when you bathe in it. The best.
Seriously, Negroni jelly.
If I owned a pub and somebody...
Look up a recipe.
Seriously, if I owned a pub and somebody came in and said, could I have a non-alcoholic lager, please? I'd call the police. I'd say, sorry, no, you can't.
Also, we're going to try and keep pubs going. Well, the worst thing is, actually, non-alcoholic drinks seem to cost about the same as alcoholic.
Yeah, they do. Well, so do soft drinks as well, don't they?
But also this whole